Nathan Black here, and I am live in Ireland for the first time. We are at Mondello, we are at Japfest, and it is time to find out what is going to happen here at the racecourse where anything could go on. It's basically Ireland versus the rest of the world. It's IDC, we got Dwayne, we got James Dean, we got the guy from Australia. That's 4,000 miles away. The big man, Kamish. No, I'm hosting the...
You don't. This is not to be... You don't work here, Nathan.
I work...
You don't work here.
Okay, well, I'll
You
come
don't
back.
work here.
Okay, I'll come back later then. I'll come back later.
No.
Tune in, 'cause it's going to be great.
Nathan Black, he'll be back later on. But he isn't wrong. It is the biggest Irish Drift event of all time. The grid is stacked. For the first time in a long time, I'm lost for words. This is the greatest grid we've ever assembled in Ireland for the last day of the Irish Drift Championship. Brought to you by Link Engine Management. We have the best in the business here, and it is going to be one of those competitive days of drifting we've ever witnessed. But let's see what the drivers are thinking before we go to action. I'm here with a man returning after a couple of incredible events in Europe. But you're back now where it all started, Conor, the Irish Drift Championship. So, Dwayne McKeever, undefeated all year, but the boys are back in town, right?
The boys are back, 100%. We're coming for blood. I haven't had much practice last, but it's not like we don't know the track, and it's not like we don't know the car, but we're gunning for it. It's time to show the boys are back home.
Well, Conor, best of luck out there in qualifying. As you can see a man here, Mitch Larner, well, I got a quick word. He's still mathematically in the title hunt today. You've stayed on Dwayne's heels all weekend. Remember, you still have that opportunity today to take down 15 years of undefeated history, and you've been so close this year. Will it happen today?
Well, like I said at round one, coming into you said to me, "Are you going for the championship?" Myself, I knew that if you're going to do well at a round and you do it every single round, you're going to end up well in the championship. So we've been pushing all season. We've had a lot of mechanical failures. The team have been on it. My dad's been working really hard. The car feels amazing. Yesterday we were on it. We're pushing everyone around the track. So I'm feeling comfortable. Hopefully the rain holds out. But if it's going to rain, I hope it just rains solid and we battle it out in the rain. But yeah, I'm feeling really comfortable, and hopefully we can take it to the top today and finally kill this streak we've been trying for 2 years. But I'm not going to give up, and hopefully today's the day. But yeah.
Well, Australia will be watching on. Best of luck, Mitch. Everybody's pumped up. These boys have been getting very close to taking down these undefeated streaks. A man that last week almost took down Dwayne McKeever. His young Oliver Evans, Ollie, last weekend so close to defeating Dwayne McKeever in that final. One small error. But what would it mean to beat him here on home soil and take home that streak this weekend?
Like after last weekend, just sort of getting back together now. So I thought I may as well come back over here and have another go with the Irish boys. And there's so many people here this weekend, and yeah, it'd be good now just to mix it up with everybody else, and not only just McKeever. It's nobody else should stop me either.
Well, I'm sure the UK will be cheering you on, Ollie. We'll see you out there. As you can see, returning pros that haven't been back in a while. One of those is, of course, Nigel Colfer, back in the mix for this event. But one man everybody's been watching this weekend is Mr. Forrest Wang. Forrest, you came here, you almost took down the undefeated streak 2 years ago in a borrowed car, but right now you're in the Get Nuts S14. Feeling comfortable out there?
Yeah, we're feeling good out here. Love Mondello Park. Track's super fun. It's fast entry, technical infield, and I just hope for good weather so we can put on a good show for this awesome crowd, and hopefully we end up coming out on top.
Well, of course, nobody's ever beaten the Irish in the Irish Drift Championship. Could today be the day?
It could. It'll be tough. Got a lot of good drivers out here, but hey, we're coming.
Well, there's Forrest Wang. Best of luck out there, buddy. And the list goes on and on. We've got people like Chris Burnett here who could make a big statement this weekend. We also got Mr. James Dean doing some tyre pressures. James, of course, this is your first competition this year. Quiet year for you so far.
Yeah, it's been quiet. I've been taking it easy, just resting, and it's nice to make one Irish appearance at the end of the year.
There's apparently a rumour going around that you've spent more time in a drift car than your bed this year. You've already taken home the European Championship, and you're back here where it all began in the Irish Drift Championship. Stacked grid. You must be looking forward to today.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't think there's ever been a lineup like this in Ireland with all the European drivers over, guys from all across the world. So to come back, Japfest and back in front of a home crowd is just amazing, especially for this event. And for me, luckily we have the championship wrapped up, and I'm just here to have a good time and try to put on the best show as possible. So I'm looking.
We're just going to respond to Dwayne McKeever saying that it was a good time to leave to go to Formula Drift because he was getting really good just about when you left. So he's been looking forward to coming up against you all year. Looking forward to something like that happening today?
Hopefully it happens. You know, we've got 2 competitions. Dwayne is looking amazing all year, and I'm sure it's going to be a battle. So bring it on.
Well, you always put on a show, James. Best of luck out there today. And his teammate, all the way from Poland, Mr. Peter Wiańczek, is lining up on the Irish Drift Championship grid once again. Peter, you came here in a borrowed car, and you did okay, but you're in your own car this weekend. Different story. As I said, an international never has won here in the history of Irish drifting, 15 years, and you're looking strong out there.
Yeah, I always hear that when I came here, you know, so I don't know if it's a good forecast to hear it again, but yeah, I'm very happy to be here as always. I love the audience here, I love the whole atmosphere, and the track maybe doesn't like me too much so far, but I hope it will change this time, so I'm very happy again. I have my own Skyline. I'd actually drove it only once before, so it doesn't feel like my own car anymore, but at least, you know, I'm here in my own colors. That's good, and I will, cannot wait for a moment to have fun during the battles on this track.
But you come in straight off a win in Formula Drift, so you're coming in with some momentum behind you, so hopefully you can carry that through today. Peter, best of luck out there. Have fun. So we have a lot of international drivers here. As you can see, both Team Worthhouse drivers coming first and second on the Formula Drift podium in Texas just 1 week ago. They're here in Ireland. As you saw before, the Australian Mitch Larner looking very, very strong, and the rest of the grid looking to take down the man that hasn't been beaten this year, which is Dwayne McKeever. We definitely weren't going to make it easy for him. But there are a lot of drivers fighting out for championship positions, just like Alan Hines here, who obviously is going to be trying to contain his 3rd position in the championship. And we have some Pro-Ams making it through from the final there, the Pro-Am takeover in Watergrass Hill, just like Neil Dunn. But the man everyone wants to beat this weekend is right here in the Tri-Ace Tires 180SX. James Dean is down there saying, it's all over, Dwayne. It's done. Today it's all over. You've beaten everybody this year, but you have to admit there's never been a grid quite stacked like this in Ireland.
Oh, the grid here today is unbelievable, but to go and win it here today, and we just proved to everybody that I'm just not some pushover because a load of all the big names have left, so I'm here to prove myself here today, and I can't wait for it.
Well, to win today, you got to go through the Shanahan brothers, you got to go through Dean, you got to go through Wiańczek, you got to go through Wang, along with the incredible drivers we have here in Ireland. I don't think anyone will be arguing this evening, Dwayne, if you're on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, none of them bite faith me at the minute here. I'm going to push to every one of the doors and show them what I can do.
Well, Dwayne, everybody's watching and cheering. Hopefully he'll be on the top step. Lee Scott dominating the Pro-Am class in IDC and BDC while he's here and ready to rock and roll at the biggest Irish drift event of all time. Returning drivers like TJ Burney, John Shine, Kevin Quinn's been picking up some momentum this year across the BDC and the IDC. But now there's some more internationals like the Steve Bagsy Biaggioni sitting in here. Bagsy, look at this for a face of concentration. You ready to go? He's ready to go. He is in the zone. These guys are not taking this as just another guest appearance. There's too much on the line here at the final of the Irish Drift Championship. And all of these drivers are ready to rock and roll. I'm nervous for everybody on this grid. Everybody has been talking about this one for weeks on end. And all we've got to do now is plug in, go back to the tower, and start qualifying. It is going to be the most insane Irish drift event of all time. And right now, as they start to finish their last practice laps, you guys have got one hell of a show ahead of you. We'll see you soon.
We're here at Japfest, day 1 of the Irish Drift Championship final round, round 6. Not only have we seen our pro drivers here attack this Mondello circuit, but also our Drift Masters European Championship drivers. Let's take a look at today's practice and see exactly what went down. story from today and what story we've got for you this weekend. The biggest event ever to hit Mondello Park. Tomorrow, the final of the Irish Drift Championship 2018 will be decided right here. The grandstands are sold out. It's going to be an unbelievable event. And then Sunday, the final of Drift Masters European Championship 2018 comes to an end right here at Mondello Park. No excuses needed. Drivers from Formula Drift, Australia, New Zealand, get yourself down. It's going to be an unbelievable event.
Of the Irish Drift Championship, brought to you by IDC Round. My name is Dave, and of course joined by my good friend Eddie Carr. We're talking through all the action today, and action is what it's all about, Eddie, as we go into the most anticipated, highly stacked, and almost tension and nervousness is overwhelming everybody here at Mondello Park, because this is the big one.
Yeah, look, it's that tension and that nervousness that has been the key thing throughout the morning. Talking to people, talking to the drivers, even myself, I just feel an anticipation of something really, really special. I mean, this is arguably the biggest competitive motor event in Europe this year, if not the world. We have the best in the world here in Mondello Park for the finale of 2 championships, the Irish Drift Championship, the European Drift Championship, tomorrow Drift Masters. I mean, it's just crazy. We started here a number of years ago, Dave, and you were luxury if you had a gazebo. Now it's articulated lorries everywhere in the paddock, and it's just insane. I'm so excited.
Well, I think if you look at the history of this motorsport, when I started my first ever event 6 years ago in the Irish Drift Championship, having Pavel Trella here was a huge, huge attraction. He is just one of over 40 international drivers representing 22 nations that are here this weekend. But today, there's a bigger story. And the bigger story is the Irish Drift Championship. Dwayne McKeever has won 4 events in a row. If he is to win today, he will basically achieve what no other driver has ever done, the perfect season. However, he has to go up against the best of the Irish Drift Championship. He's got to go up against the best of the Formula Drift Championship and the returning drivers from the Drift Masters European Championship, alongside some of the best from the British Drift Championship. The grid has never been so stacked against one driver like it is against Dwayne today. And the other side of that story is that 15 years of drifting in Ireland, an international driver has never won on Irish soil, and we are now at over 150 attempts at that. Today, some of the stars of the last 5 years of the Irish Drift Championship, Forrest Wang, Peter Wiańczek, James Dean, these guys are returning this weekend, and those guys are going to put on one hell of a show. Eddie, we're supposed to be professional, we're supposed to be broadcasting this, but we are sitting back as fans today, just like all of you guys in attendance and all of you guys at home, because something special is going to happen. Unfortunately, we're going to start today under wet conditions. It looks like it's going to dry up for the battles later on, but it makes even it more tentative, more sketchy now that the track has dry rubber laid down, now some rain coming down, Eddie.
Yeah, look, and what's come true as well from talking to the drivers, even the Irish guys who have driven on this circuit, Dave, countless times, these wet conditions and the track temperature is a little bit low. Of course, it's late in September, you know, and early on in the morning, track conditions certainly very treacherous. A lot of guys not having a whole lot of confidence going into that first corner. Some of these guys have driven over that, you know, over 1,000 times, but yet they are just feeling like it's just that little bit different this morning. There's a different air about it today in this circuit in Mondello. The drivers are unsure, and I think that's going to create a lot of uncertainty out there. Qualifying for me is going to be really, really important here. A lot of guys, as you say, returning. You know, we have the Shanahans back on the grid. We have Darren McNamara back on the grid. We have James Dean back on the grid. So qualification has never been more important. If you don't get one of those top spots, you could have a very difficult top 32 battle ahead of you.
Yeah, just to explain, it's a little bit different today because there is so many drivers. We have 50 drivers on the grid in the Irish Drift Championship, the highest pro grid number we've ever had. And that means we are switching to a top 32 for the final. And of course, 50 guys to top 32, they're going to have to make it through qualifying. And to let you know how to get through qualifying, well, we're going to go to our judges. Judges today, Kieran Hines, head judge, joined by Kevin O'Connell and Dan Moorhead. And we're going to go over to Kevin. Kevin, tell us what they've got to do to get themselves into that battle action later on.
Thank you, Dave. So conditions here are treacherous enough today, but that still won't stop us looking for the perfect qualifying line. What we want to see the drivers do is accelerate up hard from the start line, all the way up through the gears up to the initiation point at just before outer zone 1. We want them to slide the rear of the car through outer zone 1 and then maintain a nice line into inner zone 2. Then we come up to the most important clip on this track, which is outer zone 3. We want them to slide the rear of that car through outer zone 3, and if they don't get the 2 rear wheels through that clip, they're going to be really down in their qualifying order. Then from outer zone 3, we want them to transition, and from that transition, and only when they have completed that transition, we want them to slow down and decelerate the car into our first deceleration zone. From there, we want them to set the rear of the car up on the outside of that corner to our first very long outer zone 4, and we want them to maintain that nice wide line all the way out through the outside of Link Corner. As soon as that outside zone 4 is finished, we want them to take the rear of the car away from that outside line and then start their transition onto outer zone 5. We want them to be carrying primarily pace here, not too much angle, so that they can then get the car nice and smoothly down onto the wall, sliding the rear of that car down along that wall, and the closer they're going to get to that wall, the more points they're going to gain. From that wall, we then want them to sit the rear wheels back onto outer zone 6, maintaining that wide line. Again, we will be really crucial on this, and as the closer that you can get to that white line, the more points you're going to score. Onto our second wall then, just as outer zone 6 finishes up, and then maintaining that wide line all the way out onto outer zone 7 and over the finish line.
Well, there you have it from Kevin O'Connell. But if you're new to drifting, which some people might be today, Eddie, we're not new to it ourselves, but we will break it down for you. Here is the criteria we'll be following in qualifying for the rest of the day. Each driver will complete 2 non-consecutive scored runs. The highest score after both runs will count as a driver's final score. Each run is scored out of a maximum of 100 by our 3 judges. The average score from all 3 judges will count as a driver's run score. Drivers will be deducted points for momentary loss of drift, understeer, incorrect line, dropping 1 to 3 wheels off the designated circuit, or significant contact. Drivers will be rewarded for extreme entry, increased speed, fluidity, snappy transitions, correct judging line, precision and proximity to the outer clipping zones, which is those concrete walls included. Drivers will score a 0 for complete loss of drift, spinning out, dropping 4 wheels, extreme understeer, or driving a section of the course, because this is the Irish Drift Championship, not the Irish Drive Around Championship, so you got to be on angle at all times. Well, it looks like all the talk, all the build-up, all the promo, all the videos, it counts for nothing right now, because we are ready to go to the start line for qualifying in wet conditions. We're going to start with a sketchy track out there, Eddie. This is going to sort the men from the boys.
Yeah, look, it really is. But these guys have had time, Dave, to get some wet practice in, so they have adjusted their settings and their setup, and they are almost ready to go. We are going to start off in reverse championship order, and of course, Dave, some of our qualifying drivers from the Pro-Am series essentially making their pro rookie debuts here at Mondello for the final round. And of course, Brian Morton, who you can see, Dave, is very much pro in his mindset, because he's scribbled out the Pro-Am section of his door graphic there. So Ryan Morton certainly in the zone here this weekend as he gets ready to leave the line and be our very first qualifier. You see him.
He's dancing in the car. Dancing in the car right now.
Of course, our start line marshal, Keane Droney, likes to ease the nerves from some of our drivers, get them in the party mood before they take to the circuit. Here we go, Ryan Morton with the very first run of the day.
Yeah, Ryan Morton in this Orbi-powered R32, representing Motorsport 56. Morton's coach is throwing it on big angle here. He could be losing it straight away, and he does. That looks like it's going to be a 0 on that first corner for Ryan Morton. That's what's going to happen quite a bit here. A little bit of nerves creeping in. They've practiced in almost dry conditions almost half an hour ago, but a little spit of rain in the last half an hour has made this track very, very slippery, meaning Ryan will try and get the rest of this run done just to feel the grip levels, and looks like he is giving up on this one and saying it's got to be all done on the second half of qualifying for him. Now, of course, these guys with very little to lose, Eddie, as they're coming from the Pro-Am class. They have basically just been given a shot here to try and make a name for themselves. So next up on the line will be Shay Rogers, the refrigeration engineer from Derry. See Ryan scoring a 0 there, and Shay Rogers has been jumping into this. He ran from a 325 BMW to a 1,000 horsepower Supra. Talk about a jump in machinery, but he's done a great job in the Pro-Am class this year, and this thing really sings out here in Mondello.
Yeah, well, look, this is a very much a pro spec car that Shay AJ Rogers is driving, and his performances this season have granted him this opportunity to mix it with the big boys here at the final round. And look at this big angle. Can he hold it through that first corner? Using every last bit of luck, but straight out onto the grass, and unfortunately just showing a little bit of signs of inexperience, I think. And if you've been watching the Irish Drift Championship on this Mondello circuit for a number of years, you will know that the first corner, very treacherous, not as easy as it looks. It's downhill, off camber, into a very narrow section of circuit, and a lot of battles won and lost on that particular corner, Dave, in the past here. And Shay just taking the opportunity now to test the grip levels at some of the other corners on the circuit, but unfortunately a 0 on the board and 2 drivers in, and neither driver managing to secure a score so far.
Well, of course, fully carbon fiber bodied, super amazing machine, but the nerves of these Pro-Am guys, especially when they're looking across at the James Deans and the Dwayne McKeevers, it's a big daunting task for those guys. And as we move it along to our next driver, well, he hasn't had too much problems this year. The first 2 drivers haven't put in a score, but one man that's been putting in consistent scores all year, not only in the Irish Drift Championship, but the British Drift Championship. He's won the Irish Drift Championship Pro-Am class. He is leading the British Drift Championship Pro-Am class. It is the phenom, Lee Scott, who's just taken the world by storm this year.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And essentially a guy that a lot of people have wanted to see out in this pro class now for some time. They want to see just how well his skills will transition over to the pro category. Can he mix it with the big boys? Certainly dials on big angle through that first corner, and that car just slowing up quite a bit. And
I'll tell you what happened there, Eddie. He went on the curb, that outer curb on the inside, on the outside of the first corner, like glass when the rain comes down. He dropped the 2 rear wheels onto that outer curb, and that cost him to go on way too much angle, cost him the first half of that run. Wow, the nerves getting to these guys straight away.
Yeah, you know, we've already said, Dave, how this was a championship for these Pro-Am drivers with no expectation or nothing to lose here, but they have so much to gain, and that opportunity to go out and compete with some of the best in the world is pressure in itself, and they want to prove themselves on the highest level just like anybody else. So Lee Scott, unfortunately, he heads back to the end of the grid. Just need to make it official from our judges. Will that be a 0 on the board from him? I imagine it will be. 23.3 though, so judges...
Yeah, not a spin.
Yeah, not a full spin.
But it's not going to get him in the show. I think he's going to have to do it all in the second half of qualifying.
Now we move back to the start line for the first of our international drivers, which will see AJ Muss, the pro snowboarder from New Jersey in the United States.
Actually got a gold medal in the Winter Olympics, would you believe that? And he's on the track right now. Good friends with Dean Carney, competes in the Pro 2 Championship in Formula Drift, but he's been struggling quite a bit with this really, really different car. Steering wheel on the wrong side, chassis about twice as long as what he's used to.
And of course, he's used to driving a V8, Dave, and the 2JZ under the bonnet of this monster, and not overly accustomed to driving in wet conditions as well, and obviously very tricky out on the circuit. We've seen it from 3 drivers so far already struggling on this Mondello circuit, 3 guys that are very much accustomed to this layout. So for an international visiting driver with very limited practice here this weekend, you got to say, just proving very tough to try and get accustomed to it, and a 0 for AJ Muss, unfortunately.
He's been fighting an uphill battle right from the start of practice. He said it's not the car he's not used to, having a turbo he's not used to, and the steering wheel is on the wrong side. So he's borrowed Dean Carney's car this weekend to give it a go, but it will be AJ Muss taking a 0 on his first run. So right now, the pressure and the conditions getting to all these drivers, and another international lines up.
Yes, and another champion, Dave, the DCA 2017-2018 champion, Dale Campaign, all the way from Australia. 2 Australians sitting on the grid here this weekend, and Dale taking this opportunity to come over and try and follow in the footsteps of countryman Mitch Larner. What can he do in a car that he's borrowed from yourself, Dave, this weekend?
Yeah, we purchased this from Pete Nielsen just after the 4th round, rebuilt the engine, put a link engine management system on it, and he's in the wall yesterday, had a little bit of a run-in with Chris Brady, and got hit, a little bit of bumping and pushed into the wall. So alignment not 100% on the car so far. And he also says the conditions not helping him here. He's used to drier conditions in Australia, so going from wet to dry so rapidly throughout the weekend has been a bit of an issue for a lot of these guys. But again, the first run's a good way of testing the conditions and getting your confidence built for the second run. So another 0 on the board there. And right now, this track proving to be make or break, especially on that first corner.
Yeah, look, it's really time for somebody to come out and just put in a big run, and you can just the confirmation there from Dale Campaign, a 0 on the board from the judges. We move it along though to a man who has been all over Europe this season. He is the 2017 British Drift Championship winner. It is Matt Carter sitting on the line representing Japspeed, Maxxis Tires, Garage D, Sunoco, EP Racing, Corbo, ASD Suspension, Quaife, Walton Motorsport, Snap-on, Rock Oil, Asnu, Supertech, Zero Tech and EBC brakes. 1.5 JZ underneath the bonnet, 800 brake horsepower at the ready for Matt Carter. Can he get through the first corner and do what no one else has managed so far? He certainly can. And right now, the Japspeed driver doing a good job getting this car right where it needs to be, filling up that outer zone as he comes by Link ECU corner. And you can just see how difficult, Dave, it is to get the grip down on this Mondello circuit. But Matt Carter, an absolute masterclass considering the conditions, and when you've seen what's come before him, that's a real demonstration of just how good Matt Carter is.
Well, it's also experience, and Matt's been around the block. He's a two-time UK champion. He's been around a lot of wet conditions over those 10 or so years. He's been competing even further into that. So that counts for a lot when you see those guys in borrowed cars, the internationals struggling, then the Pro-Am struggling. Bring out a pro, and he'll start to adapt a little bit quicker. And Matt Carter doing a great job there of putting that car where it needs to be. Not the perfect run, but definitely enough to put a score on the board from our judges and settle the nerves a small bit for Matt, who's had, look at that, an 85.3 for Matt Carter straight out the box. And that is from 0.00085.3. And you tell me this isn't going to be a predictable day. So Nigel Colfer is now on the line, a man returning to action from European duties, and of course another very steady pro that should be relishing the conditions now from this point on.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something I was discussing earlier on, Dave. Nigel Colfer sits on the line here this weekend as probably an underdog. Essentially, this man comes out with a bucket load of experience on this track, and when he's on it, he tends to podium around here more often than not. Will he be in contention when it comes down to the final few battles later on this afternoon? That remains to be seen, but right now, Nigel Colfer filling up that outer zone and showing no signs of any difficulties on these treacherous circuits. Wipers on, Colfer throws it out to the wall in the Acorn Insurance, SD Suspension, Westlake Tires, Monster Energy, Sonax Parts Worldwide Performance, and 180SX, 2JZ under the bonnet, 740 brake horsepower. Nigel Colfer laying it down, Dave, and looking really, really strong right from the off. So,
yeah, good run from Nigel Colfer. You'd expect that here. He's been on the podium a couple of times in Mondello on a very similar. An 80 on the board for Nigel Colfer there, representing ST Suspension, Westlake Tires, Monster Energy, Sonax, Parts World Performance, and Acorn Insurance. And on the line now, the man that just came off the podium, top step of the podium at Formula Drift 1 week ago. He is in his own R34 Skyline, representing Team Worthhouse. It is, of course, Peter Wiańczek. And Peter, he's on down the order, of course, the championship order. We're going to see a lot of these internationals straight away. Another man that's been having some amazing runs and some difficulties on this track. He hasn't had much luck here before. Let's see if it's all about to change.
No, but he is a three-time European champion and the 2017 Formula Drift Rookie of the Year. As you say, Dave, fresh off the top step of the podium at Formula Drift, and right now Peter Wiańczek comes out here ready to take down the Irish. Can he beat the streak this weekend? Certainly doing a really strong job early on in qualifying, filling that outer zone as he comes by Link Engine Management corner. Peter Wiańczek, can he take it to the wall? He certainly can. Pinpoint accuracy from the Formula Drift, the driver and team boss at Worthhouse. Peter Wiańczek crosses the line, a very strong run, and these runs starting to come in hot and fast here, Dave, as we move to some of our more experienced drivers on the grid. Peter Wiańczek, hand out the window, waves to the audience, guys, give him a round of applause. Himself and James Dean dominating over in the Formula Drift Championship this season, and great to see those guys. And obviously Freddie Asbo showing a very good performance from the European drivers, very competitive over there as we wait the score from Peter Wiańczek from our judges. And an 85, wow. Second position for him. Peter Wiańczek looking very strong as well, but looking to the line, Forrest Wang, his second time sitting on the Irish grid. What can he do? The owner of the Get Nuts Lab. He's originally from Hawaii, but living in Las Vegas. 2JZ under the bonnet, his own car shipped purposely all the way over to IDC for this event, Dave, and great to see Forrest back on the Irish grid, and certainly a lot of fans will be looking forward to seeing what he can do this weekend. Almost took down the streak on his first visit. He'd be looking to go one step further here this weekend.
Yeah, looking good so far through the first 3 clippings. So far, looking very strong in practice. Says he likes this circuit. The layout suits the car. He even said this car is one of his favorite cars to drive. It actually runs more horsepower than his Formula Drift S15. And he said that this car is set up perfectly. Had some technical issues on Friday, trying to get it dialed in. But right now, he's looking pretty comfortable out there. Just not filling all of the outer zone there as we would have expected. But I'm expecting these drivers to have to adapt in the first half of qualifying to the conditions. Remember, this morning it was a little damp, then it was fully dry towards the end of practice. Now back to the wet again. It's unsettling some of these guys, and I think we're going to see guys improve as the day goes on. If Forrest puts a score on the board, and not a bad first attempt.
No, waiting to see what that score will be. I don't think it's going to threaten top spots, certainly not filling some of those outer zones as well as some of the previous drivers. Needless to say, I expect to see that one quite up the order. Will it break into the 80s or will it be mid to high 70s for Forrest Wang? We await those scores to appear.
Well, you got to look at it right now. We're seeing a lot of these high-ranked drivers sitting down the order in qualifying. I mean, the scores are coming in hot and heavy straight away. A 78.3 for Forrest Wang puts him into 4th position so far. So a little bit of work and a little bit of improvement needed there. And on the line, well, this man doesn't know how to improve. He's kind of hit a level and he's stayed there for many years. He's the current European champion. He's the current US Formula Drift champion. He's a 5-time Irish champion, 5-time European champion, and a Guinness Book of World Records holder. So if you need any more information, you're about to see what this man is all about. The machine, James Dean, takes a circuit. Look at the angle on entry from James Dean as he pulls almost a 90-degree entry there in the wet. And this, of course, the Worthhouse S14 has been on European duty all the way through the year and under a lot of pressure to try and get in that championship. But this weekend, he's back in the Irish Drift Championship, back against the men that he's been competing with for years and years, and right now looking very comfortable.
Yeah, well, James Dean showing that impossible is just about nothing when it comes to this Mondello circuit. Angle that only other drivers could only dream about pulling into that first corner. James Dean making it look easy. And Dave, if that one doesn't go top of qualifying, I will be very surprised. The most decorated driver in drifting history, arguably, and certainly a man who has probably more podiums than anybody else. He has won every single championship that he has ever entered. How about that for a statistic?
Incredible stuff. So an 89.3 for James Dean puts him into 1st position. Doesn't break the 90s, but an 89.3 from the judges, and that's enough to get him, I would imagine, into the battles later on straight from the off. So next we go to the line, Diarmuid O'Connell on the line. Well, this is an interesting one, Eddie, because it's a Corolla, and we like Corollas, and there's not many of them left in competitive drifting, but this one runs a Mazda rotary engine, so 1.3 making 500 horsepower. Crazy machine.
Yeah, this one sounds pretty obnoxious, and Diarmuid looked to make his return to drifting at the previous round, but unfortunately with mechanical difficulties couldn't get the car out on circuit. No problems this time around as he looks to just as I was saying, looking very strong, but a little bit of an error just as he comes into link engine management corner, Dave, and that will certainly hurt his score quite heavily. But Diarmuid getting a good opportunity just to test the conditions out there, not filling up those outer zones as well as he would have liked. Of course, it's very difficult to make your debut or your comeback into an Irish grid when it's so heavily stacked.
Very difficult to come back, as you said, at this level, but also it looked like a gear change issue for Diarmuid O'Connell. Maybe he was changing from 4th to 3rd there, and just got it a little bit wrong, and tiny little errors like that can cost you big scores here, and Diarmuid will probably have work to do on the second half of qualifying, but an incredible build all by himself from the same shell that was in so many accidents years ago. It's still fighting strong probably 10 years later. A 44 for Diarmuid O'Connell there, and I think those scores are going to creep up dramatically as we go up the order. So some of the big dogs in there with their 80s already, some Pro-Am struggling, and now the IDC grade and returning drivers such as Darren Coates now, see how they slot back into the mix after some time away from the sport.
So Darren Coates gets the orders from our start line marshal. He is ready to take to the circuit. Representing Turbo Service, MD Tuning, GC Auto Spares, Tri-Ace Tires, and Nisbro Performance.
Got on the curve again, Eddie. Got on that outside curve, and it's straight away. You can see once that back starts to hop. Remember, those curves are in the reverse direction.
Order, yeah.
So it hops the back of the car, loses his grip, and he just slid down the track there in the wrong place altogether. So far, a bit of a sketchy run from Darren Coates. A mistake was made on air, and it sort of continued from there. Let's see if he can tidy it up towards the end of the run.
And of course, our judges saying in briefing this morning, and as always here in Mondello Park, a lot of the score that these drivers will be trying to gain will be through clip 1 to 3. So get it wrong at that point and you can expect your score to be heavily penalised.
Well, it's the most difficult part of the track, Eddie. That's what they're always going to weigh on the most difficult part of the track. That entry is blind, it's off camber, it's downhill, it's very, very tricky. A lot of the European drivers saying yesterday, 29 for Darren Courts, as you would expect, for some errors on that run. European drivers saying yesterday they've never quite been on a corner quite like it, where it's so much going on at one time. It's not just fast, but it's downhill and off camber, and you've got to be full throttle. So a lot of drivers struggling. Let's see if our next driver, Ian Galvin, returning to the pro class, can have a little bit of better fortune. Ian running a 1JZ 400 horsepower in this CAC Motorsport car. So Ian, capable of great things, but now it's time to keep a cool head and put a good run in.
Yeah, big weight transfer entry here from Ian Galvin, but dials it on just too much, and unfortunately has to back out of that one completely, Dave.
Yeah, again, another driver getting on the curb, and it looks like it is a no-go zone to put rear wheels on that curb on entry with the wet conditions. It just hops the rear end of the car, and you need all the grip you can get when you're coming in at that kind of pace.
Yeah, and of course, substantially slippier on those curbs as well. So once you come off it, it can tend to shoot the car forward a little bit and cause it to react in a way that these drivers wouldn't be familiar with. So Ian Galvin, another driver whose score will be heavily deducted for that error on entry, and he will have to reassess and just regroup as he goes back to the end of the grid and awaits his second run of qualifying. And nervous time for these guys because, of course, while we are running a top 32 order, 50 drivers on the grid this weekend, a 24.3 for Ian Galvin.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be enough to cut the mustard here at qualifying for the final round, especially when you have 50 guys and 32 only making through to the battles. Next on the line, Sean Watt. Well, he loves these wet conditions and this little BMW M3. Loves to go big on angle, put the full throttle down for the whole course, and keeps the car kind of loose in terms of grip just to make sure it's almost as entertaining as possible. And Sean doing a great job all year of staying in the fight in the pro class in his pro rookie year. And again, another driver is dropping a little bit onto that curb and keeping a good job of not over-rotating.
Yeah, well, I think what's important there is it looked like a very tentative entry from Sean Watt, taking it quite sensibly on his first run, looking to put a score in, certainly not filling that outer zone as well as he would like, but I think the plan here is certainly get a score on the board and relieve some of the pressure. I think the spotters would have been on the radio to say, look, Sean, a lot of guys scoring zeros, get it through the course and see where you stand after the first round qualifying.
Absolutely, Sean did a good job. Does connect a run together, and I mean it is very slippy. You've got to remember, all day yesterday, just rubber laid down car after car, and not just usual Pro-Am and Pro, but we have Pro and Pro. So lots of horsepower, lots of tire laid down, and it's going to make that surface very tricky today, especially if it gets patchy. We are promised that this will clear up later in the day, and the track will remain dry for just the end of the competition, which is what we all want to see. But that doesn't matter right now when you're in qualifying. You've got to deal with the conditions you're dealt, and Sean Watt doing a 66 there in the first half of qualifying. Remember, each of these drivers getting a second run later on, so not over yet.
No, certainly not. Now Amanda will be looking to make a successful return to the grid is TJ Burney. He's taken a little bit of a break from competition this year just to take some time out of the sport, but he is back on the grid for the final round and leaves the line, wipers on. You can just see again a tentative entry for TJ, washing so wide and just getting on that curb, and you can see how much it affects the rear end of that vehicle, and unfortunately a 0 and a spin for TJ Burney.
We were just saying earlier, hadn't put a foot wrong in practice all weekend, and just when it mattered in qualifying, the conditions getting the better of TJ Burney. And of course, if you haven't been in the competition all year and you're just returning, it's a big step back into those shoes. You got to get back in the zone, you got to shake off a little bit of rustiness. TJ looked like he'd done that exactly in practice yesterday, but when the conditions came down, and again, it's fine in practice because when you go out there, you're trying to learn the right. You've got a couple of laps left in. When it comes to qualifying, I mean, that's for all the marbles. You can't make 2 errors, you're going home.
But
so
this is an extreme sport as well, Dave. So you take the likes of soccer or any games that are played over a 90-minute period. You have a long time to get settled and improve your performance. Out here, it's 2 30-second runs. If you don't perform, you're going home. So it's a lot of pressure on these guys' shoulders. 0 on the board for TJ Burney. But we turn our attention to Aramis Vasquez.
One of my favorite drivers, Eddie.
And you know what? I'm inclined to agree with you. I don't think there's too many people that aren't a fan of the style of driving that Aramis. It's all out aggression every time he comes out on circuit, and the only thing that really stops this man is mechanical problems, and he's always breaking drive shafts and half shafts. What will he do here in the wet though? Spoke to him earlier on, and he's feeling confident out there. He's delighted to be back on an Irish grid and looking to put on a show for the fans. Getting it a little bit wrong though. And yeah, 2 big errors coming into that first corner, Dave.
Same again, just dropping too wide onto that outer curb. I mean, spotters will be on the radios, the drivers say not to put a wheel on that outer curb. It is just like glass out there, and you can see Armis, who likes that big angle style. It's just not suiting him here. A lot of grip dialed into the car. It doesn't sound like the car is running 100% right now, but again, with Armis, that car chewing so aggressively, I'm not sure what's right and wrong sometimes, what sounds come out of it, but he would much prefer it to be dry and be smoking out the Mondello circuit, but he puts a run in. I'd imagine he's going to be you know, docked quite heavily from the judges there for almost a spin on the first corner. And again, those drivers that are going back in on those low scores put all the pressure onto the second run, Eddie. And Armis, representing the British Drift Championship here this weekend, but originally from Lithuania. He will be one of those drivers to watch if things dry up, but right now has 0 on the board after his first run.
So, looking back to the line, our next driver, Darren D-Mac McNamara, the owner of Group D in County Cork. He's representing, of course, Group D, Haltech, Garrett, Sunoco, Work Wheels, TurboSmart, ACT Clutch, JR Pistons, OBP, ASNU and K&N. Of course, we saw him last weekend at the British Drift Championship, and this car, Dave, he finally has it, driving exactly how he wants it.
Yeah, an incredible, the most over-engineered, I would imagine, PS13 in the world. However, in all that engineering, didn't put windows in the car, in a car that's going to be driving in Ireland, so he's going to be a little bit cold there today, I'd imagine it, but this thing is a rocket ship when it hooks up. And Darren said it's almost so much grip in the car, it has to be full throttle everywhere, so the rain might actually be pretty tricky to drive in this car with so much grip dialed in. You can see just how tight it is on the transitions, Eddie.
Yeah, a little bit of a twitch there from D-Mac as he looks to take it out to the wall. Still not a bad job getting that car where it needed to be around the qualifying line, and again, more importantly, Dave, getting that first run in the bag, and that'll do a lot to settle the nerves. And of course, Darren McNamara comes here with no championship nerves or championship worries, but he is under pressure to try and perform and show that he still has it.
Well, you got a driver who's 9 years in the Formula D Championship professionally driving. I don't think nerves are going to be his biggest worry this weekend. I think it's just dialing in that car. But the first run puts a score in of 72. Not what he would have hoped for, but at this point in time, he'll take that.
So sitting on the line is John Shine from Newmarket in County Cork. Finished 3rd in the championship in Pro-Am in 2017. He's got an RB25 under the bonnet. This is 450 brake horsepower. Now, John Shine, a quiet man, but in the pits, but you put him behind the wheel, Dave, and he is more than capable of pulling it out of the bag. Now, does he stay off that?
Big angle, Eddie, on entry
big
there.
angle, but can he hold it? Looks as though he can, but just about going to lose a lot of pace here as that car almost over-rotates, and while he doesn't spin, I'd imagine his score heavily penalised. Big error really on initiation coming into that corner. A little bit too hot. Stays off the curbs, but still just doesn't manage to keep that car going, and missing these outer zones. Judges will be watching that, and I imagine that score will be heavily penalised.
Yeah, quite an understated car, and in many ways quite an understated guy driving it, but John Shine certainly has the power under the bonnet and the talent to do damage here today. But on that occasion, when on too much angle, I mean, the car being on angle looks great, but if it's slowing the car dramatically, that's going to be a deduction in points, and that's why John will probably see that in his score and reflected when the judges drop in.
So that score does drop in, and a 53.3 on the board for John Shine. So at the moment, enough for 8th position, but I imagine when all is said and done, Dave, that will need to be substantially improved in order to get himself into one of the top 32 spots. Now, Alan McNeil sits on the line, the service engineer. He's representing McIlvenny Motors, Aiden Slowey Fabrication and Bradley Motor Works, running Westlake tyres. And Alan McNeil.
Yeah, 86, 350 horsepower, throwing it in up over the hill there. As he drops a wheel on the inside curve. This line looks good though, Eddie, and I think he will actually nail that line straight off the bat. Goes to show how, but then just transitions a little too early and almost sacrifices the first half of that outer zone.
Yeah,
so
I think a little bit too wide on that third clipping zone caused him just to have to shallow up, but he gets back on it now towards the latter stages of the run here, and again, just not able to fill those outer zones as well as he would have liked, but certainly doing a good job getting that little Corolla around the course and putting that SR20 to good use.
A lot of grip dialed into this car, and it's suiting him here in the wet weather conditions. You can see just how tight the rear end of that car is. It's not washing a whole lot, it's keeping a lot of composure out there. And Alan McNeil, who struggled a little bit this year to find his stride in the pro class after coming up from the Pro-Am class, looks like he's put in a good score on the board. Needs to tidy up that outer zone though, and a 68.7 puts him in the 7th position so far.
Now on the line, representing MD Tuning, Team Kanjuma's Estino Tyres and Carrick Tools, it is of course the heating contractor from County Laois, Neil Dunn. the SR20 underneath the bonnet, 500 brake horsepower, and Neil Dunn, of course, gaining this opportunity after a very impressive season in the Pro-Am competition, but washing very wide through that first section, Dave. And can he keep it pinned? Big angle as he comes by that third outer zone.
Got on the outer curve again.
Yeah.
Those outer curves, and again on the outer zone on Link Engine Management corner. The problem there is if you get on that curve, it's the same problem. It starts to swing the car around, and Neil just got caught a little bit there. It's going to hurt his score also. The reason he's actually so high up the order here in qualifying is that he made it through to this Sunday so many times this year. He actually scored quite a few pro points, which essentially put him up the order above the guys that haven't scored so far this year. So Neil right in the mid-pack. He said he was more nervous than he's ever been. Had a drift event lining up with these guys for the first time, and you know, on that occasion went for the big run. He knows he needs it today. There's no point in going out there and putting in a soft run, but just made some errors.
Yeah, you got to remember as well, you've got changing track conditions. You're going from tarmac over to concrete. 42 on the board for Neil Dunn. He sits in 11th position temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys scoring zeros right now. The second half of qualifying, it's going to be very, very exciting to see who's in and out. Next up, Oliver Evans, straight from second position on the podium. Had the British Drift Championship last weekend. Had 450 horsepower last year when he came, and now he's back with 650 horsepower, representing VP Fuels. Ollie Evans, well able on his day to take anyone down here on the grid.
Yeah, and well able to top qualifying as well. Of course, topping qualifying in the British Drift Championship last weekend. Taking a few cones with him this time around here, though. Certainly getting the car around the circuit and filling up that outer zone as he comes by Link Engine Management corner. But Dave, certainly the errors on the first section, of course, just dropping those wheels too far on the inside clip.
Yeah, very difficult
to score, but Oliver Evans, the rest of this run has been pretty spot on, and he'll be feeling excited about this one.
Yeah, very difficult on this course, Eddie, to from my perspective anyway, decide on what approach you're going to take in terms of grip, because it's not soaking wet, and the grip, especially on this track, once it stops raining, it starts drying very quickly. So grip starts, you know, that racing line starts to become, or the correct judging line starts to become very dry very quick. So I think these guys are struggling with how much grip they need to put in the car. You can see a lot of twitching and a lot of straightening up from all these guys. 64.3 for Oliver Evans on the board, and work to do. Paul Conlon now sits on the line, representing Link Engine Management. This car, 650 horsepower, fully rebuilt in the off-season. An incredible machine, used to making the biggest clouds of smoke we've ever seen. Not going to happen on this run, though. And Paul, a veteran of the sport for many years, has got a big challenge here ahead of him.
Yeah, I spoke to Paul earlier on, and he said normally he's really good in practice and then really bad in competition. This weekend he struggled in practice, and hoping that it's just a turn of fortune and that he can perform when it matters. And so far looking like he's laying down a decent run here in qualifying. Just starting to dial on a little bit too much angle, makes a little bit of contact with the wall, and it unsettles the run for him. Not able to keep that car in the outer zones. Gets it around the circuit though, Dave, and you have to feel a score on the board, but not one that's going to contend for any of the top spots.
Well, even more notable is the smoke starting to be created just at the finish line. So track drying rapidly. I mean, there's a little bit of wind in the air, Eddie, and we know this place so well now that the minute there's no puddles on that track, the rain wasn't heavy enough for that. I'm predicting that if we don't get another drop of rain, this could start getting drier and drier as the runs go on.
Yeah, but I think what we need to watch for now is the fact that it's going to be patchy.
Exactly, and from another perspective, if you look at Paul Conlon, his form this year, he's looking for a turn of pace. 72 on the board, a 6th position for him so far. That's not a bad first score, especially in the conditions, but what are the drivers going to approach the track like now? If it's drying rapidly, you can't take the safe wet setup on the car and just have a real grippy and then try and get around. Brendan Stone especially will know conditions when it comes to race cars, because these guys set up some of the best in the country from Stone Motorsport. That of course is the Drift Taxi back in action for the final round. 500 horsepower under the bonnet, 2JZ. It's a big car to get around this track, especially with 2 seats in the back.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the team working hard to get this back on track after a few broken shafts this morning in practice. But Brendan Stone, the former Irish Drift Championship winner, and he is coming here again to try and, you know, remind people that he is one of the biggest names in Irish drifting, and he can perform when it matters. And of course, not the easiest chassis, Dave, to try and be competitive in. And this car just showcasing what Stone Motorsport can achieve at their new headquarters. Right now, Brendan Stone filling up those outer zones, doing a really good job getting this car around the circuit, and more smoke starting to come from those rear tyres, which is going to set up a very, very interesting end to qualifying here this afternoon.
Absolutely, and Brendan Stone, of course, a guy who's won touring car championships, he's won rallycross championships, he's won rally. I mean, this guy has been through every motorsport there is in the book, and that experience counts for a lot when it comes to grip levels. And it shows there, because this car, as they would say themselves, not the most competitive machine on the grid, but when it's wet and patchy, that doesn't really matter about power or grip. And he did a great job there. I'm expecting quite a good score for Brendan Stone there.
So that score does drop in, and an 80 on the board, and enough for 4th position. So really good job from Brendan Stone on his first run. We turn our attentions to the start line, where Steve Biagioni sits.
Yep, Bagsy's on the line. He is a full-time professional driver for Monster Energy, ST Suspension, Sonax, Parts World Performance, and Acorn Insurance. He's a previous British drift champion. This car running a Chevy LS3 V8, 550 horsepower. And it is a crazy, crazy build when it works. Bagsy washed it a little bit there, but keeps it on track. They've had issues with this car almost all year in Europe, just finding those small gremlins, which will unlock the potential of this car when they're all sorted. And right now, in these wet conditions, those naturally aspirated V8s should have a little bit of an advantage of keeping the torque nice and low in the rev range.
Of course, only debuting this car this season as well, Dave. So obviously those little niggly little bits, the snag list, just things that they need to overcome. But right now, Steve Biagioni looking focused. We saw earlier on, you tried to have a quick word with him. He was just,
all business.
All business. Task at hand firmly on his mind, and getting this car around the circuit. And he needs, just for himself, a good finish to this championship season. We will see him back in action tomorrow for the Drift Masters finale as well. And but Steve Biagioni, he comes to Ireland hunting down that streak, and an 82 on the board is a nice place to start for him.
Great first score for Steve Biagioni, and he will be delighted with that car working great. He says this track is one of his Achilles heels, never really performs here. He said doesn't know what it is about it, but right now an 82 on the board, it looked good. Michael Megan returning to action after a little hiatus away from the sport this year. The man who works in horticulture and agriculture, but this car is anything but agricultural. Height of engineering here in this RB 25 powered 580 horsepower R32, but just got caught up on the grass a little bit there and put him on the wrong line. He's on the inside of the track here, which is not where he wants to be.
No, he's been driving the same chassis for the last 12 years, Dave, and he says it's probably not the most competitive chassis in the world. Certainly the car is very well built, but he feels as though he could be more competitive in the likes of an S15 or something S-body, but just loves this car and feels a little bit of an attachment to it, really loves driving it, so he's keeping the chassis going for a little bit longer now. And right now, if he can get himself into qualifying, well, at 58, I'm not sure if that's going to cut it when it comes to the end of qualifying later on. So work to do for Michael Megan.
Absolutely, and now we move on to the line. It's Dennis Murphy, the tyre technician from Cork. This thing is a crazy, crazy build. Check out all the mega spec stuff on this, all the splitters, the canards, even the windows join into the door. They're screwed into the door. Crazy stuff on this. Real passion project for Dennis, making this car as crazy as possible. Still running that SR20, but it's stroked to a 2.2, 540 horsepower, coming in very hot into the first corner. Looks like he sort of entered mid-track there, but did keep it online. And Dennis looking again for a big finish to the season here.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the drivers, Dave, looking as though they have a little bit more confidence taking that car into that corner on a higher pace and a bigger angle. And right now, Dennis Murphy filling up this outer zone. Can he stay in it? No, just comes off it a little bit too early. And again, somebody that'll hurt to score. Big angle though as he crossed the line. Judges discussing this one and looking to the first corner, and imagine spotting something.
I mean, Dennis Murphy's car has given him just a little bit of trouble this year. A lot of, he's done a lot of rockers in the engine and just little things. I mean, trying to push that little SR20 to such a huge amount of horsepower might always cause a little bit of an issue. But the guys, Mike Dean at Dean M Sport, have been working so hard to get that reliable. And this weekend, it's looked pretty picture perfect. So will the score reflect that? As you mentioned, Eddie, some errors on the run. I think he's going to have to do the work on the second run. I think all of these guys will get a little bit more confidence on the second run, and we're going to start to see those scores start to creep up. 78 on the board for Dennis Murphy, puts him into 8th position so far.
So the next man that's sitting on the line is a man that will want it to stay wet, David Hobbs, with the lowest horsepower car on the grid, a mere 200 brake horsepower from the 1UZ engine underneath the bonnet. He represents Mills Auto Body and Paint, Hobbs Electrical and Group D. What can the electrical contractor from Wexford do? A very precise driver, a very good line driver, and when he can keep this car in full flow, he can certainly bring out the big scores in qualifying, but getting a little bit offline through that first corner, and it's really hurt his pace and his line. David Hobbs, I'd imagine Dave is going to be really marked down heavily by our judges here, just not able to get it right. Patchy conditions maybe making it difficult for him as he looks to complete his first qualifying.
But he gets marked up a lot for me for having 200 horsepower on a pro grid at this level of European drifting and still putting in scores on the board, keeping that Hero 86 alive. And with the conditions wet, you never know with David Hobbs what might happen. Sometimes he gets a little outpaced when it comes to the battles, but a very competent driver and a very good line driver, very consistent. So, but today a 51.7 for David Hobbs will not be enough, I would imagine, when we settle things later on to get him into the battle. So he's going to have to improve, and a guy that'll know that. He's got the experience to say a lot of these guys have to go back out. Now here's a young gun that's been making a big name for himself, Ryan Caldwell in Quinn's M Sport S15 2JZ over nearly one of the highest horsepower cars on the grid, 750 horsepower, but he is only 16 years of age, but he's made a huge name for himself in the Pro-Am class, and right now in his pro debut we're about to see what Ryan Caldwell is all about. Another star for the future.
Yeah, a big star in the making is Ryan Caldwell, and one that a lot of our pro grid will be looking at Dave as if to say, you know what, I do not want to come up against him in a top 32 battle. Even a top 16, he's a threat, and these guys will essentially look at him as a bit of an unknown. He's really impressed in the Pro-Am grid in the UK and in Ireland this season, and right now tearing it up in that Quinn M Sport prepared S15 on the grid here for the final round of the Irish Drift Championship, doing a really good job.
Cracker of a run from Ryan Caldwell as he hooks up every part of the track. Insane run for the young gun, 16 years of age. I mean, we've got a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old on the grid today. It is crazy to think they're driving around in 700 horsepower cars and looking like they've been doing this for 10 years, which would be impossible because then they would be actually a child, when many of them arguably still are. But I think Ryan Caldwell's going to get rewarded from the judges there. And a great debut in pro, Eddie, to come out here against this grid and say, I don't really care who's here, I'm still on my rise. 82 on the board for Ryan Caldwell, puts him into 4th position. This kid's been getting better and better. I think he's a real threat, as you said, Eddie, for the rest of the competition. We next on the line with Dean Martin. Dean, one of the characters behind the scenes. Very bright car and a very bright character. As I said, a guy that it's a lot of fun behind the scenes, helps everyone out behind the scenes, Eddie, including yourself. He's been helping you getting into drifting lately.
He certainly has. A man that went and bought a car for me while I was away in Germany. But right now his attention is on qualifying for this event here, the final round. A lot of changes been made to this car for this particular event, and Dean is happy with how it is running. He finally has it the way he wants it. He leaves the line, gets ready. What can he do now? Limited practice yesterday and today, but Dean Martin throws it into that first corner. This M3 320 brake horsepower, but a big straighten as he comes off that 3rd clipping zone.
Yeah, just didn't anticipate the grip level starting to return into the track, Ed, and just stalled up a little bit on the transition. Rest of it, though, looking pretty good. He is representing TH Components, East Coast Alloys, Morgan Auto Repairs, Precision Tint and Graphics. This thing looking, sounding sweet on circuit, and not having the perfect season all year. A lot of gremlins, a lot of problems, but right now when it matters, it's the big show.
Could we finally see the Dean Martin, James Dean battle that we have waited for so long?
We are having a sing-off, essentially, or an act-off, or whatever you want. We're going to have an old-school black and white photo, I'm sure, of the two guys on track. But we've been waiting for it for a couple of years. It's lining up. Maybe it will happen. But 68 on the board for Dean Martin, the 13th position right now. And I think that is probably not enough. I think we're going to see it rise. So I think those guys are going to have work to do. Second half of qualifying is going to be very nail-biting.
Yeah, look, as soon as this track becomes fully dry, that's when we're going to see the really, really big scores. We've already seen some of our really experienced and veteran drivers put in big runs, but right now Chris Brady, one of those veterans and a man who is very capable on his day, he'd be hoping for wet conditions to stay in place. Just gets caught up with that change in grip, and it's just so difficult at the moment, but filling up those outer zones as best he can. You can just see battling that steering just to keep this car on angle. And Chris Brady, the underdog in this little Corolla, but one of the most talented drivers on the grid and a real fighter when it comes to the battles. And Chris Brady in the Chambers Performance SR Corolla gets it across the line, and he looks good out there right now, Dave.
Yeah, he said he's determined this weekend to announce his name onto the European stage, and Chris Brady having some hits and bangs in practice, but looks like all is good to go now in that 450 horsepower Corolla as he exits the track and awaits his score from the judges. It's a 61.3 for Chris Brady, putting him into 16th position. And we go back to the line. where we will see Alan O'Loughlin. Alan O'Loughlin, the warehouse operator from Galway in the west coast of Ireland, said he's coming up this weekend to drift just because Galway nearly got blown away during the week, so there's not much left of Galway, so he said it's better to be up here for the weekend.
Yeah, had to evacuate his home, but a man that had a lot of problems yesterday, had impact and did a lot of damage to the front end of this car, but the team worked really hard. He had limited practice, but got the car back out on grid. Big straight in there through that first corner. And again, Dave, a lot of drivers were complaining or just mentioning how difficult the grip levels were to predict through that first corner. And imagine now with the patchy conditions that we're facing, just very much an unknown for some of these drivers. Alan O'Loughlin, though, stays in it here.
Yeah, well, if you're wondering why this is happening, or is it the driver's errors, it's actually the conditions that's doing it. Because what we can notice here, you my guys that might not be able to see it at home, you guys in attendance can see it, is that when you initiate on the first corner, it's actually a wet initiation. Then as it comes down the hill, it's dry, and then it goes back to full wet again. So that is an impossible corner in many ways to predict what the car is going to do, especially when it's downhill and off camera. So Alan O'Loughlin falling victim to some of those conditions. 56 on the board for him, 18th position so far.
And I think while some of the other sections of the circuit have seen more consistent driving on it, that first corner, people haven't taken the same consistent line through it. Charlie Geary gives the thumbs up and says he is ready to go. The parts sales rep from Cork.
Last weekend in this car for Charlie Geary, says he's got big plans for 2019, something new on the way. So one last hurrah for the M3 estate. And coming in very hot, Eddie, clutch kick entry. Just about makes it work, but that hot entry is going to end him pretty wet at the end of it as he ends up in the grass.
Yeah, if you're in attendance, you can see just those three little markers that the judges have placed on the centre line, and Charlie, I think, just too far inside that in order to keep that pace, and yeah, getting caught, but certainly showing that he is up for it here, Dave. Very aggressive entry into that first corner, just getting caught out by it though. But a man who has come over that hill countless times in the past, he will be well able to deal with the pressure of having it all to do on his second run.
Absolutely, go up to line. It's next up is Liam Devlin, the farmer and contractor from Antrim, representing Devlin Trailers, Westlake Tires, JMC Boiler Services, Watfab Block Kits, and DM Alignment. As you can see, the 0 for Charlie Geary pop up on your screens. But Devlin's been driving for 4 years. He started from the bottom, right from the bottom, and now he is here at the biggest European drift event we've ever seen in Ireland. And right now, this is big moments for these guys. They know that they may not have a lot of these in the future. They certainly haven't had them in the past. Time to perform. Those nerves will be affecting them.
Of course, top 8 in the championship, Dave. Moving on to tomorrow's competition, and a lot of these mid-pack guys, it's very close in that championship. A good performance here today could not only bump you into tomorrow's competition, but also make a name for yourself on the European stage. It's a lot up for grabs as Devlin gets set, prepares himself on the start line, just awaiting those orders from the marshal. We get the thumbs up. We are go. What can Devlin do? Can he break into the 80s? Can he secure top of qualifying? We know he'll aim to put on big angle through this first corner, Dave. And a nice line, one of the best lines we've seen through that first corner. Very fast.
Yeah, way too fast through the first corner. You could just see when he initiated that there's no slowing that car down, and you've got to respect the attempt, because that is motorway speed. They're coming in there in the wet and pulling the handbrake. Remember that. If you're on the motorway and you just pull the handbrake in the wet and went sideways, that's what they're doing purposely. And you can imagine how much slowing down you need after that. And again, remember, when they come through that first corner, what you would naturally think is they're slowing down. In fact, they're hitting the throttle, full throttle, to stay on the track. It's almost like you take everything you learned about cars and motorsport, you twist it on its head. And I had a rally driver speaking to me during the week of these guys, when they transition, they let go of the steering wheel, because the car needs to transition so quickly, you can't actually turn it that quickly. So imagine you're at 70 miles an hour, letting go of the steering wheel while on the handbrake. That's the reality of every run this weekend. Incredible. Next up, Kieran Casey.
Yeah, Kieran Casey leaving the line. A misfire in this car earlier on in practice, but the team seem to have got that solved, and he is back on the grid. What can he do, representing Bumblets, that charity ambulance organisation for kids?
Great cause.
A really great cause. Also representing Dean M Sport and McCormick Transport. This car mapped and prepared by West Coast Performance. Not the perfect run by any stretch of the imagination here for Kieran Casey, but starting to pull it together through the latter stages, filling that outer zone and safely across the line. We're starting to see a lot more smoke build, Dave, and good signs for what's to come the second half of qualifying as this track starts to dry out.
Well, I think it's down to the fact that as they come towards the finish line, they're actually passing that section of the course twice. So twice twice over that is making that the driest part of the track now. On the way in as you hit clip 2 and on the way out past the finish line. 52.3 for Kieran Casey puts him into 20th position so far. And remember, it is a top 32 today. 32 drivers will go to those battles. And because it's the biggest Irish Drift event of all time, we're having the biggest parade of all time today. A top 32 parade. That's coming up after qualifying. We'll keep you guys in the loop of all the scheduling. If you need to know what's happening, go to our website, idcnation.com. All of the scheduling is there for the whole weekend. Next up, Danny O'Callaghan. This is a man that has made every top 16 this year, Eddie, and looks so strong in his pro rookie year.
Yeah, looks like a really, really strong competitor, but gets it all wrong through that first corner, Dave. And unfortunately, that will be a heavy, heavy penalty for Danny O'Callaghan on his first run. And could it be the end to the season that he didn't want to see? He'll only have one run to get it done here now. But Danny O'Callaghan in a very impressive car, and certainly a real talent behind the wheel.
Absolutely. Danny O'Callaghan comes across the line. He's been looking so strong this year. This is a guy that's going to make a name for himself in years to come here in Irish drifting. Yeah, but he has been just consistently improving.
You're talking about a guy that has, you know, a lot of success in the past in different sports. He played football for Crossmaglen Rangers and has 3 All-Ireland medals, so certainly capable of producing it when it matters, and that's a man that won't be feeling it too much when he goes back to the start line for his second run. But a 54 for him means he is down the order in 19th position. Now, a man sitting on the line, returning, Dave, Jack Shanahan, the 18-year-old.
Yeah, Jack Shanahan has had a mixed year. He came off being dominant in Ireland, dominant in Britain, went to Europe and just struggled to get the car right this year. Back on home turf this weekend, wants to finish the season strong, loves this track. We've seen him top qualifying. We've seen him beat James Dean here before. But right now, Jack Shanahan does look very much like that driver as he comes through those first 3 clips. A lot of people wishing him very well this weekend, looking for that confidence level to be turned up a notch this weekend, and looking good so far in the Link Engine Management Tri-Ace Tires S14.
Yeah, and you have to remember, more accustomed to driving on those very grippy 285 Tri-Ace tires. The tyre limit for this particular round, 265, and Jack Shanahan making the transition very well at the moment.
It's a great run.
Those guys messing with the gear ratios during practice this morning, and he looks very comfortable, which is great to see. Certainly one to contend with.
Okay, so we're just getting some information from the pits just for you guys watching. We always try to keep you on the behind the scenes. Last run of practice, Mitch Larner had a mechanical failure in the car. Turns out he has a shaft issue in the Winters differential in the back of the car. He may not make his first run out here. Talk about coming down to the wire, second in the championship, chasing down Dwayne McKeever and James Dean, chasing both of them down this weekend. Score coming in for Jack Shanahan, 86.3. Jack Shanahan goes second in qualifying. Back to business for Jack Shanahan here in Mondello.
Yeah, certainly, and could that be the little bit of a, kick in the right direction that Shanahan needs for his confidence? Younger brother Connor now sits on the line, and if ever there was a cool customer behind the wheel, it is this young man. 14 years of age, representing a Link ECU Westlake Tires. Still goes to school, but right now it's time to pedal a 2JZ 700 brake horsepower S13 through that first corner in Mondello Park, and Shanahan tearing it up, filling that third outer zone. Transitions nicely and straight into Link ECU corner. This is a cool customer behind the wheel, and so impressive what he has achieved at such an early age, Dave.
Incredible stuff, and I think if you look at the game of chess that's being played between, if you're looking at rankings on the grid this weekend, Connor stacking in there pretty high. I mean, amazing to think that Dwayne McKeever has never beaten James Dean. James Dean has been beaten by Connor Shanahan, and Connor Shanahan has, Dwayne McKeever has beaten Connor Shanahan. So if you wanted to look at a little triangle, and Jack Shanahan has beaten James Dean and Connor Shanahan and Dwayne McKeever. So if you want to put all that together, it means absolutely nothing when it comes down to it today, because they've all beaten each other.
I think it means absolutely
everything. Look at this, 87.3 for Connor Shanahan, second position in qualifying. So we were just trying to, we can't call it today because every one of these guys has beat each other at one point in the past, and it's going to be crazy. Next up, we've got Pete Nielsen checking out see-through doors on a race car. It has been made a reality by Pete Nielsen, and a see-through roof. This is the brand new 180SX for Drift Games that he is unveiling this weekend. And Pete Nielsen, long year build, and here it is finally in the flesh.
Yeah, finally we get an opportunity to see this car debut, and what a vehicle it is. Pete leaves the line, smile on the face, and he is ready to go. Just look at how imposing the front end of this car is as he throws it. Oh, a little bit of a twitch there, Dave, but just manages to keep this one going. and Pete Nielsen gets it out to that third zone, and that's the all-important clip now. Can he keep it pinned? He certainly can. One rear wheel into that outer zone all the way around Link ECU. Dials on that angle, representing Drift Games this weekend. And Pete doing a good job. Just coming off that final outer zone, Dave, a little bit early and missing the final clip over the line. Might just penalise his score a little bit, but certainly job done for Pete Nielsen getting a score on the board for his first run.
Absolutely, Pete Nielsen. I mean, it's so bizarre that we can see Pete Nielsen in the car while he's drifting around it. I don't know where he gets the imagination for this stuff.
I don't know how he's going to feel when he has another 700 brake horsepower sitting door to door beside him coming through that first corner. That's going to be scary.
He is dressed like a lumberjack this weekend in his brand new race suit, and he's always a character on the grid. But 12th position so far for Pete Nielsen, 76.7 in his first run. We go back to the line. It is Shane O'Sullivan sending out an SOS for the Jap Speed and Maxis driver. He has an ex-UK champion. He has hit more podiums than anybody on this grid, bar James Dean, for the Irish history of the Irish Championship. However, has never won an event. So this weekend he said, what do we get to do it against the best of the best?
Well, that's it. You know, could it be the weekend? And, you know, you look at guys like Shane O'Sullivan and Mitch Larner that come here to try and take the top step of the podium. There is no better weekend to do it with such a stacked grid. And right now, O'Sullivan, you know what, it's good, but it's just not deep enough into those outer zones to contend for top spot for me, Dave. That Jap Feed S15 getting worked hard here by Sully, who right now can see the amount of smoke. We are almost at a bone-dry track, Dave.
And a big 360 across the line from Shane O'Sullivan. He's having fun out there. And you know, the best thing, you always talk to Shane, how you getting on, and he's always saying, look, sure, we're trying. He's the most relaxed man in drifting. I think if Shane O'Sullivan was on fire, he'd probably ring you to tell you. He'd just say, look, let's not panic here. Let's just see what...
Yeah, very casual as always. Yeah. Cool, calm and collected. Hand out the window, wave to the audience. And you know what, for me, a dark horse this weekend.
Absolutely. We move along to our next driver, a man that says he's bringing style
Waiting
back.
on a score, first of all, though, for Shane O'Sullivan. Will it be enough to get him into one of those top spots?
As you said, Eddie, a great run, maybe not the best we've seen today. So an 81.3, that'll do for Shane O'Sullivan. Into 8th place he goes, and some high scores coming in now from some of our veterans of the sport here in Ireland.
Well, you got to remember, we're creeping up the order, and this track is starting to dry out very quickly. Brian Egan gets ready to leave the line in that dealt with R32 JZ. 500 brake horsepower underneath the bonnet of this car, and
arguably one of the best looking cars on the grid, Eddie.
Yes, really gotta agree with that. But Brian Egan looking for a turn of fortune. It hasn't been his best season to date in the Irish Drift Championship, but he would like nothing more than to close out the season on a high. Could we see him on a podium once again? That remains to be seen. Right now his focus is on his first run of qualifying. Slots the car into gear, and Brian Egan is ready to go. The O'Neill auto body R32, here we go. Brian Egan fires it in through that first corner. Nice line. Can he take it out to the third zone? This is almost the fastest that we've seen anybody come through that corner, Dave. And Brian Egan with full confidence in the conditions, filling up that outer zone as he comes by Link Engine Management corner. Straight out to clip 5 and then straight back into it again. Oh, just a little bit deep into that second to last outer zone, and Brian Egan gets it across the line.
Yeah.
A really good run from Brian.
Very
aggressive. Yeah.
That's just about it. We just said it at the same time. Jinx, Eddie, a very aggressive run. Someone that's been obviously told on the radio there is more grip out there than the guys are giving it credit for. He threw caution to the wind there and actually just fired into that first corner, and it worked out. Could have easily ended up in the grass, and I think the judges will be looking at that one saying, you know what, could have been a little bit, it was a little deep on the second outer zone in front of the grandstand there, but I think it's going to reward him either way. The bravery there definitely going to be rewarded from the judges. Great run. Let's see what the judges drop in some scores. An 84 for Brian Egan puts him into 6th position. And they are some big scores coming in. I think these guys feeling the confidence, knowing that it is the last round of the season. And from my perspective, they are throwing caution to the wind from this point on. 50 drivers, 32 positions. You have to get it done here. The grid is too stacked. Chris Burnett now, let's see what he's got. He has been rising through the ranks for the last couple of years, and I think this is an event that he'll relish the opportunity. He loves the bit of banter behind the scenes, but it's all business behind the wheel now as he puts in another excellent clip 1 to 3 there. Guys starting to step it up here, Eddie.
Yeah, this is a really good start to the run from Chris Burnett, and he's looking very confident. Got an opportunity to get a few practice runs with the likes of James James Dean and Forrest Wang. And
just got his transition wrong there, Eddie. Snapped a little bit too much on angle and it cost him that last corner.
So he gets it across the line, but as you say, Dave, good start to the run, but then those errors just started to creep in, and it can be very difficult sometimes just to get the car, if you come off the line just that little bit, to get it nice and deep into that outer zone as you come by link engine management corner, and that's quite a long outer zone as well for these guys to try and fill and maintain position. So a 73 on the board for Chris Burnett, 15th position for now, but a lot of these guys saying earlier on, Dave, that if this track dries out, they expect that it's going to be, you know, mid to high 80s to even have a chance to get into the top 32.
Well, you'd expect it, right? You put the highest ranked grid ever in the history of Irish drifting out of 15 years, and you say, right, there's 32 positions, there's 50 guys here. A soft run. There isn't, you know, these are all pros. Everybody here is a pro at this point in time, and Joe Doyle will know as he leaves the line at this R33 Skyline that if you don't put in a good run here, you're going home. So Joe Doyle will have that pressure on his shoulders as he transitions into the first corner. Nice weight transfer as he comes through the first section. And a hammers the throttle, just about gets the wheel into clipping zone 3 and into that outer zone on link engine management corner. Nice run so far, looking very settled in these conditions. I mean, I just have to take a moment, Eddie. We've watched this track so many times, but that transition to the first wall is one of the coolest things to watch in drifting. Just the weight transfer, and just have you left enough room to put the bumper to the wall. Incredible stuff. Joe Doyle doing a great job there. I think he's looking confident this weekend.
Yeah, and you got to remember that wall in a different position to normal, so the transition there really sketchy for these guys. Not a whole lot of track to work with either, and Joe Doyle doing a really strong job. Can we see a big score from the judges for him? So there you have it, a 71.7 and enough for 18th position for Joe Doyle.
Yeah, Joe Doyle puts a score on the board. Happy with that one. Next up, Kevin Quinn. We talk about characters behind the scene. If you've not been on Kevin Quinn's Facebook, you've obviously not seen the Baby Shark rendition he's done recently.
I'm not sure you want to see it either, but right now his attention is firmly on putting in a big run here. And look at this, Dave. The confidence that these guys have going through that first corner now is incredible. Kevin Quinn nailing the first section, getting nice and deep into that outer zone. This is the transition we talked about, straight onto the wall. Can Kevin Quinn get into the outer zone? Certainly doing a really good job here. I expect this to be quite a competitive score as he sends up the smoke signal through the last section of the circuit.
Yeah, car so well prepared. Incredible engineering behind it. Joe Doyle and the guys just made this thing. You could eat your dinner off the inside of this car. In fact, I've eaten dinners in worse places than the inside of Kevin Quinn's car. Beautiful build from start to finish. He sounds aggressive. And I think the run and the score is going to match that aggression on track as the judges drop in their scores. An 82 on the board for Kevin Quinn. 82 puts him into 7th position. We are now a huge amount of drivers in the 80s. And he had this, and I don't mean that in the terms of that, but Paul McCarthy now lines up. He is driving the turbocharged M3, and he is sitting now in the business end of the championship. A fire at Punchestown costing him that championship as he throws it into that first corner. Paul McCarthy on big angle as he starts to fire it through. Nails clipping zone 3, flames firing from the bonnet as he now takes it to the edge of that track. Remember, dropping off there, you're going to be lifting a front wheel into that gravel. And Paul McCarthy says if he's finishing this season, he's finishing on a podium. And right now, few would argue with his commitment as he hammers the throttle across the finish line. Excellent run from Paul McCarthy.
Yeah, you've got to remember, Paul McCarthy is one of the only drivers to actually win a competitive event of the Irish Drift Championship, Dave. So that is a big, big statement coming into this round.
An 87.7 for Paul McCarthy, 2nd position. And he keeps on fighting and he keeps on hitting that top 5 in qualifying no matter where the sport goes. Paul McCarthy says driving is what it's all about, not machinery. And Mark McBurney lines up on the line. Driftshed NI, another underdog, but that underdog became a hero this year as he hit the podium in a couple of rounds and now sits in the business end of the championship. 5th position in the championship for Mark McBurney as he fires it in. We call him Mark McBackwards because he loves to throw those big angles at the walls. And look at this, the angle and the confidence these guys are throwing in now, Eddie, second to none.
Yeah, 5th in the championship, but very close to that 3rd position in the championship as well. Only a few points behind Alan Hines. So a lot at stake here for the Drift Shed NI driver, and McBurney as impressive as ever as he crossed the line. A very strong first qualifying run.
And McBurney now, again, from his perspective, he wants to stay in this championship fight. He's chasing down that 3rd in the championship of Alan Hines, and I think that run was pretty spot on, Eddie. I don't think there's much to complain about there. 83.3 for Mark McBurney puts him into 8th position, and right now that it's heating up. These guys are putting in the runs we expected from the start of qualifying. Mikey Fitz on the line sits currently in 4th position in the championship, as high as he's ever been in the championship. He would love a top 3 spot. Well, the Drift Games RX-7 has got business to do now as he goes into another Mondello round where he says he has to win one. He has to win one of these.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's what he's here for, but this car has taken an absolute beating this year. Not one straight panel left on this FC RX-7. Mike Fitz comes down to the line, slams through the gears. Big entry into that first corner from Mikey Fitz. What can he do on his first run of qualifying? The Drift Games driver just missing the start of that outer zone, but gets into it, Dave, and now this big snappy transition. Mike Fitz gunning for that top spot here this weekend. Could it be the dream weekend for Mikey Fitz? Gets it across the line.
So Mike Fitzgerald awaits his score from the judges in the Drift Games RX-7, obviously maintained by the guys at Group D, where Mike can help you out with if you need any parts for your drift car. They have it 79 on the board from Mike Fitzgerald, 15th position at the moment, just missing some of those outer zones, a little bit of work to do. And we move it on to our top 3 in the Irish Drift Championship, starting with, representing the Pro Drift Academy and Vitor Tires, it is Alan Hines. He has risen through the Pro-Am ranks in his first year in the Pro class, sits in the top 3. This is a big moment for this young man.
Huge moment here for Alan Hines, and he wants to maintain that position in his rookie year, but a lot of people chasing him down. He's fresh off a win in the virtual world. Can he replicate that, though, in the real world? Alan Hines filling that outer zone nicely in the Pro Drift Academy S14. Switches it onto the wall. Big wall run from Alan Hines, and getting up close and personal with the outer sections of the circuit and across the line. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Alan Hines.
If you're new to the sport, Alan Hines began his career online, making tracks himself. All those virtual laps you've seen of all these different circuits, well, they're all made by Alan Hines, and that's where he's put in his practice before he could even get in behind a car. So only 2 years in the sport, goes right to 3rd in the championship in the IDC, but can he stay there? First score about to drop in for Alan Hines, and we are getting word that we will not see Mitch Larner on the first half of qualifying. Big stories happening already. He is in the pits repairing a car. He will only get one chance. 80 on the board for Alan Hines, 13th position so far, and we will miss Mitch Larner's first run, meaning he is in the pits with something broken in the rear differential on the car. They're trying to get it fixed for the second run, but the man that everybody has been talking about this week, has he got the stuff to do it with the biggest stack grid in Europe? Well, we're about to find out. The Northern Smoke Machine, Dwayne McKeever, is on the line, was in the barrier yesterday, had to take the car out of the track, fix the front end. Well, he's back business as usual. Can McKeever stun them all and go top in the first half of qualifying? He will be aiming for it. Oh, a little bit of understeer there for Dwayne McKeever, and he drops off the track. Dwayne McKeever showing the first sign of pressure this year, Eddie.
Yeah, well, normally, Dave, when Dwayne McKeever comes to a championship round where James Dean is on the grid, it's James Dean that has the target on the back. But it's firmly McKeever with the X on his back. Everybody wants to take down his door and take down his streak. 8 championship rounds without a loss, and the pressure very much on the Northern Smoke Machine here this weekend.
Well, I mean, pressure. He says it's for tires, but it really does start to ramp up when you are so close to home on 2 perfect seasons. Hasn't been defeated in Ireland or the UK in 8 rounds this year. But right now, I think the score is going to suffer there quite heavily from that mistake.
Yeah, 51 outside the top 32,
Wow.
so he has to get it done on his second run. Our second place in the championship has to get it done on his second run. And of course, both those drivers with spare cars here this weekend.
Yeah, well, top 2 in the championship, not in the top 32 as it stands at the end of the first half of qualifying. And just a moment for us to announce that after this weekend there is some more to look forward to. Well, there's some pretty big events coming in the next couple of weeks. We have teamed up Drift Games with Supermax and the Plaza Group to give you the Drift Games Tour. It's hitting next weekend in the Barack Obama Plaza, then to the Galway Plaza on October 7th and Tipperary Town on October 14th. 3 events, 3 games. We're playing with some of the best drivers in the country at those venues for the next 3 weekends. And guess what? It's free entry for everybody to come and watch. And then the big end of season bash, the Drift Games Bash in conjunction with Club Loose Ireland. That is on the October 28th and 29th. Driver entries go online for that this Wednesday. All those events still to come up before we finish the season here in Ireland. But right now, back to business. Second half of qualifying in the Irish Drift Championship, brought to you by Link Engine Management. And it's up to Ryan Morton now to try and improve on his first run. A lot of guys sitting on zeros here.
Yeah, and improve he has to do. You know, look, if he gets around the circuit, it's going to be an improvement. But right now, conditions, Dave, you have to say it will be a lot more appetizing for these drivers as they leave the line. Morton in the Motorsport 56. Morton coaches R32 Skyline. Can he get it done here on the second run? A little bit wide through that first corner, just getting the nose of that Skyline into the first, or into that second inner zone. And now filling up that outer zone. Much better here from Ryan Morton. One of the most promising stars rising through the ranks here in the Irish Drift Championship. He will have been gutted with himself after that 0 on the first run. A wheel off circuit through the final sections, but a big run nonetheless. Will it be enough? So Ryan Morton, a little bit of a tap on the roof. Will he? I imagine he's sitting in the car wondering if he's done enough. We await the score from the judges. And a 62.3, enough for 28th position at the moment, Dave, and it's going to be a nervous wait for Ryan Morton. So back on the start line, it is Shay Rogers, the refrigeration engineer from County Derry, and of course, another driver sitting on that 0, Dave. Representing Dynamic Bus and Coach Glazing, TF4 Refrigeration, JP Tires, Rycon Logistics and Westlake Tires. He slams it through the gears, fires on the big angle in this monstrous Toyota Supra. And Shay Rogers with the pressure of having to produce it on the second run, filling that outer zone, but just coming off that zone a little bit early, Dave.
Yeah, just not the tightest run so far from Shay Rogers. And you know, when he's on it, but a little bit out of the zone there as well. The line just not correct from the start to the finish there. And again, with such a stacked grid, you're going to need to see some big scores dropping in.
So grandstands here in Mondello Park starting to fill up, and the anticipation builds ahead of what is going to be one of the most spectacular events in European drifting this year. And a score on the board, 57 for Shay Rogers, 31st position. And again, a wonder as to whether or not that will be enough to secure a place in the battles.
Oh, look at this, a second place in the championship right now. Mitch Larner is in the pits trying to repair his car. He will only have one qualifying run to stay in the championship hunt. Oh, the nerves are starting to build here in qualifying already. We're back to the line. Lee Scott looking ready for action. A little shake of the head, and he's ready to go.
Yeah, Scott scoring at that 23 on the first run, so he's got it all to do, but a bone dry track now for the 2018 Pro-Am champ. And again, another driver unbeaten despite mechanical issues in his various championships to date in the Irish and English Championship. What can he do? This looking much better from the young man representing Finvoy Tires. And right now, Lee Scott will be saying to himself, I can mix it with the big boys if I can just get myself around this circuit. Look at the pinpoint accuracy, tagging the wall, losing the rear taillights, and Lee Scott gets it across the line in a really strong second run of qualifying, Dave.
Incredible run from Lee Scott. We've been waiting all year to see this guy, you know, emerge into the pro class. Well, he definitely doesn't look like a fish out of water. I think the judges are going to like that one. And Lee Scott wanting to improve on his first score. Let's see exactly what he scored. I see Mitchell Arner in the pits there, Eddie. There's panic moments for those guys. They're trying to replace a rear differential. And it is Ryan Caldwell's family and all of the drivers around him trying to get it back out on the track. Going to show this man flying 5 times a year to Ireland from Australia to drive in this championship. So everybody's pitching in there. Even the kids in the background are helping out to get this car back on the track. But the score for Lee Scott will drop in from the judges at 79.3. Enough for a mid-pack 16th position so far. Might be safe enough, Eddie. I wouldn't guarantee it, though.
No, certainly no guarantees at this stage, and you know we are only 3 drivers into the second half of qualifying with a now warm track. So Aaron AJ Muss gets ready to leave the line for his second run.
Hasn't had an easy weekend, Eddie.
Certainly not. Certainly hasn't had an easy weekend, but look, a lot of experience and competition experience, be it in snowboarding or drifting, under his belt, and just again those conditions not ideal as he comes back out on circuit for the second run of qualifying, gets it all wrong, and unfortunately the visit to Ireland for AJ in terms of competitive drifting action will end there. Very difficult, of course, to you know, come to a brand new competition and jump into a borrowed car and then deal with changing track conditions every time you come out on circuit. So unfortunately for AJ Muss, getting a taste of Irish action, but unfortunately qualifying is where the dream will end for him.
Yeah, we said he came over just to soak in the atmosphere, to watch the event. Why not do a couple of laps and then go home and say, you know what, I've experienced it. He even said to me yesterday, he'll be bringing his own car back here if he's coming back. He said it wants to be, you got to be at top of your game if you want to even compete here. And he said he realizes himself he needs his own machine, left-hand side, all that kind of stuff. So another driver looking forward to this competition and experience. It was Dale Campaign, the current Drift Challenge Australia driver, driving this engine rebuilt since Punchestown. We gave it a little bit of a freshen up. It's now running much more than 400 horsepower. But Dale's been struggling, had a big hit, some alignment issues. He's got one chance. He's come all the way from Australia. He's got one chance right now to put a good score on the board. Let's see what happens. Has the Australian got it in him with limited practice to get the job done?
Well, certainly we've seen what this car is capable of in terms of getting it around the circuit, and even a few top 16 visits in the hands of Pete Nielsen. Can Dale Campaign do something similar? The reigning DCA champion, so he's got a lot of experience underneath his belt and doing a really solid job this time around. The dry conditions certainly helping Dale Campaign in his hunt for a spot in the top 32, and he gets it across the line. Guys, give him a round of applause, traveling all the way over from Australia to be here this weekend.
Yeah, Dale Campaign waits his score from the judges. A car that I've never driven, even though I own, and Pete Nielsen's driven it for 4 years and has never driven with this much power. So nobody knows what this car is doing right now. But Dale Campaign will hope to get himself into that top 32. Will the dream weekend continue? He said he's here for the fun, here for the experience, and qualifying would be a massive bonus.
So judges' scores dropping in, and a 73.3 for Dale Campaign means he jumps into 21st position, Dave. And you know what, at the moment, safe. I'd imagine he might start creeping down the order a little bit.
Yeah, moving along to Matt Carter, had an absolutely unbelievable first run, still sits in 5th position in qualifying. So let's see if Matt Carter can improve and trouble James Dean at the top here. He's looking confident.
Yeah, Carter looking very confident through that first corner, and as you say, a man looking to finish the season off on a high. It's been a struggle in his debut European season, but right now Carter shredding those Maxxis tires here at Mondello Park and looking very strong once again as he clouds out Mondello Park. Matt Carter crosses the line, the former British Drift Championship winner.
What incredible stuff from Matt, just looking on form for the first time in outside of the UK this year.
So 85 on the first run. On the second run, it will be for Matt Carter. Will this be enough to contend for top spot? Matt Carter on the second run.
I think Matt Carter's on it today. I think this is the best I've seen Matt Carter on it in a long time.
Look at this thing, a 90.7, enough to top qualifying. Huge, huge statement from Matt Carter.
And the UK go top in qualifying. I don't think anyone would have predicted that at the start of the weekend, but right now those guys are on it. We're going to the pits. My good friend Ian Waddington is with the injured at the moment, Mitch Larner.
Way to start your qualifying session. Tell us what happened.
Just last lap of practice, car was feeling like a rocket. Thought we'd die on a little bit more grip to see if we could get a bit more pace out of it. Just for the obviously it's a big grid and a lot of big contenders here this weekend. So just wanted to try and push it a little bit further and maybe just wound in a little bit too much grip. And we broke the input shaft in 3 places. You can see on the floor there. So yeah, no, the car was flying. We only needed to do 2 or 3 laps this morning, and we took it really cruisy. And unfortunately, it bit us. I say 1 lap left of practice, and yeah. Killed the diff in the back and snapped the input shaft in 3 spots. So the team have been on it. They rebuilt the diff in 40 minutes. So I don't think you can go anywhere else and fix it that fast. But massive shout out to the Cadwells. They brought a whole new brand new diff down here for me as well, just in case. So they're all throwing spanners around and working together as best as they can. But the car looks like we'll be out there for second run. So we're going to come back out and push 100% and try and mix it back up with the boys at the top. So yeah.
Well, dude, we wish you all the best of luck. Congratulations. See you soon. Back to you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So they've put a new diff in this car and rebuilt one in 40 minutes to try and get it back out. We go back to the line. Nigel Colfer lines up.
Yeah, Colfer put in a huge score on his first one, an 80 as well, Dave. Look, the Wexford man, he's back here, and we've talked about how competitive he has been in the past here at Mondello. What can he do in his second run of qualifying? Can he knock Carter off the top? Here we go. Colfer through the first corner. Nice line so far, very aggressive. Lots of speed and dials on big angle, filling that outer zone, getting very deep into link engine management corner. And Colfer in the Acorn Insurance 180SX. Takes it to the wall, and this is a Colfer on a mission, but just not filling that outer zone through the final sections. Colfer over the line.
Nigel Colfer, we call him Stone Cold Colfer because that's exactly what he does. He comes back to Ireland, he says, I've been doing my European thing, I've been doing my Middle East thing, but I'm back this weekend to show the Irish audience what Irish driving is all about. Solid run from him. Let's see if it troubles the top guys. And there it is, an 83 for Nigel Colfer, puts him into 9th position in qualifying. Impressive stuff from the ST Suspension Acorn driver, and it's getting heated out there, and right now it's about to get even more heated as the man that just took top step on the podium at Formula Drift in Texas last week here from Poland. It is Peter Wiańczek, and right now he says, I'm going out there to beat my teammate James Dean and Matt Carter and take it to the top. Let's see if he's got it in him.
Yeah, well, 86 on the first one has him sitting down in 6th position. He is safe for battle action, Dave, you have to assume. But right now, big angle through that first corner. Can he hold it? Just about keeps it out of the kitty litter. And Peter Wiańczek here for a little bit of fun this weekend, representing Budmat Auto, filling the outer zones. And we know how incredibly talented this young man is. And right now, Peter Wiańczek having a little bit of fun in Mondello Park.
Yeah, we got some Peter Wiańczek fans in today, right? He's been impressing us. He's an honorary Irishman at this stage, I think, from the Irish fans. And Peter Wiańczek takes it across the line. 360-degree exit of the track. Impressive stuff. So let's see if Peter Wiańczek did go a little bit wide on the outer zone. Judges will be watching that, but it was definitely entertaining.
It certainly had impact, and that 85 on his first run, has him in 6th position. Does he improve on that? The scores from the judges about to drop in. Will it be an improvement for Wiańczek?
Yeah, I think the judges are going to hammer him here for dropping nearly almost into the gravel there. He was off track. There's actually concrete there. It's not obvious on your screens, but it's off track. So 74.7 for Peter Wiańczek puts him into 6th position. From his first run with an 85, enough to get the job done, Eddie. He'll definitely be in battle action later on. It's heating up.
So the Vaptasia driver sits on the line. Forrest Wang managed a 78.3 on the first run. He wants a dry track. He wants to come out here and put on a show for the fans. What can he do in the S14.5? Fires it through that first corner, Dave. Look at this from Forrest Wang. Tearing up the Mondello circuit as he puts foot to floor, gets fully back onto the throttle, filling that outer zone. We've got to remember, this is not the first time that Wang has been here. He now has his own vehicle. He takes it right out to the wall. Look at the angle. Mondello makes some noise for Forrest Wang.
Well, if that isn't in the show, Eddie, I don't know what is. The most angle we've seen anyone pull towards that outer wall zone. He came here, he said, I'm not only going to win, but I'm going to do it in style, and that definitely was the case there.
I think it's appropriate to say more angle than Pythagoras.
So scores will come in for Forrest Wang. Will he go top of qualifying? An 89.7 for Forrest Wang puts him in his 2nd position. Right now, Matt Carter stays right there at the top. What a fight we've got on our hands. And right now, the man that would be expected to top qualifying, James Dean, that infamous 1-3-0 on the line. The machine ready to take this Worthhouse Falcon Tire S14 to the top. And here we go, James Dean. Can he go into the 90s?
Huge angle from James Dean as he fires that car more than 90 degrees into the first corner. Nobody knows this circuit as well as James Dean, filling that outer zone once again, Dave. And James Dean doing what he does best in that Falcon Tire Worthhouse S14. Pinpoint accuracy once again as he takes it to the wall, shredding the Falcon tires and across the line. Guys, round of applause for the returning homegrown hero, James Dean. A lot of people very excited to see that man back on Irish soil, and he has done so much in terms of showcasing the ability of these Irish drivers all across the world. Score comes in for James Dean. Will it go top? Will he outdo Carter? At 95, Dave, 1st position, and statement made from Dean.
James Dean goes top with a 95, but this is getting very interesting right now as those guys put in some massive scores. Next on the line, Jeremy O'Connell. This is what I want to see, Eddie. One of these guys come from nowhere to put a score on the board and mix it up at the top. Right now, Dean sits above Carter, Wang, McCarthy, and Conor Shannon in the top 5. Can Jeremy O'Connell put in a solid run here, get himself into that top 32?
Yeah, look, who doesn't want to see a rotary in the top 32? What can O'Connell do? Takes it out just about making it to that 3rd zone. Can he fill the Link ECU outer zone? Just struggling to get that car as deep into these zones as he'd like for O'Connell. Certainly looking to put a strong end to the run together, but just can't manage to keep the car on the outer extremities of the circuit. O'Connell crossed the line in a very difficult comeback with such a stacked grid.
Well, if you're going to make your comeback to Irish drifting, this is the wrong place to do it with all these guys. And Jim O'Connell said, you know what, I'm going to give it a go this weekend. He's doing a great job, better run there on the 2nd than the 1st. He will improve his score.
So those scores filtering through to from the judges, and a 74 for Diarmuid O'Connell sees him drop into 21st position inside the top 32, Dave, and we could have a rotary in the battles later on this afternoon.
Yeah, we're all rotary fans here. We want to see them get into the top 32. Next on line, Darren Coates, another driver returning, and as I said, it's really tough for these guys who are just trying to step in, especially for Darren Coates stepping into a brand new machine this weekend, and he's had some teething issues in practice. Let's see if it all comes together here for one run to get him into the top 32.
Wow, look at this from angle from Darren Coates, almost backwards into the first corner, but it takes him very wide. Darren Coates, the line all wrong, just goes to show how aggressive he knew he had to be. At 29 on that first run, meaning the MDT driver having to push really hard in the second half of qualifying. just backs it in too much and his line affected. I don't think that's going to be enough, Dave. Certainly the standard that we've seen so far this morning, I think Darren Coates could be making an early exit.
Yeah, well, the 360 is being pulled after the finish line, and maybe Darren Coates knowing that wasn't enough. Yeah, not enough to get him into the top 32 there with a 41.3, and it's a harsh game out there on the track now.
So we look back to the line where Ian Galvin awaits his second run. Remember, scoring very much down the order at 24 on the first run. He gets the marshal order, slams it into gear, down the stretch he comes. What can he do on the second run of qualifying as he peers over the brow of the hill? Fires it in nicely through that first corner, but just gets a little bit deep into that intersection, and it caused him to miss the third zone, Dave.
Yeah, Ian Galvin just struggling a little bit here. I mean, again, another driver hasn't had much seat time this year, and a baptism of fire for most of these guys this weekend, coming up against some of the best in the world. And Ian Galvin doing a nice job of finishing the run in style, but at the same time making some errors towards the start.
Yeah, I think you have to remember that drifting, of course, still in its infancy, Dave, and it just means that if you take even a break for just a few rounds, the standard is just constantly improving and improving. It can be very hard to just jump back in where you left off. Score on the board for Ian Galvin, 59, just misses out on those top 32 spots.
Yeah, very tough out there on the track right now, and Mondello Park starting to fill up for what is going to be an incredibly historic day of Irish drifting. Could we see 15 years of history undone? Could we see Dwayne McKeever stay undefeated? Well, right now the pressure on our top two in the championship, and another one in the championship whose pressure on is Sean Watt, trying to come in here and put a score on the board and secure his place in battle action later on today.
Yeah, well, he scored a 66 on the first run, so Sean Watt currently sitting well down the order. Can he come out and put on a big run, missing that outer zone quite severely, and just not able to get this car as deep into those zones. He's like, takes it to the wall with big angle, but unfortunately the line on entry there wrong, causing him to sacrifice that outer zone. He gets across the line, guys. Give him a round of applause. I'm not sure for what that's going to be enough to improve on the first run.
Sean Watt doing a nice job there, and again, it's just so tough, especially with the impact some of the higher horsepower cars are putting in. There you go, 63 on the second run, not enough to top his first run, so leaves Sean Watt in 29th position. And remember, we have no run from Mitch Larry yet, so that's quite close to the drop zone. Nervous wait for him. And TJ Burney lines up again, another driver. They all want to be part of Jap Fest. That's how it works here in Ireland. Everyone wants to be part of the big show. But when you haven't got those battles throughout the year, you haven't had that experience as much, it's very, very difficult.
So TJ Burney needs to get it done on this first run. Oh, big angle through the first corner. You can just see him fighting that steering wheel as he almost gets it wrong, but holds it together. Now, can he get into those scoring zones? Looking good for Burney after that sketchy entry, and takes it out to the wall, just dropping one, possibly two wheels through that outer section, and not the perfect run by any means from TJ Burney, but certainly one that could see him score high enough just to creep into that top 32. Where will it be for Burney?
TJ Burney awaits his score from the judges. Will it be enough to see him into the top 32? It is not, just outside in 34th position. Another driver making the exit early. Now, Armas Vaskelis sits on the line. This is a guy used to hitting the top spots in qualifying in the British Drift Championship, originally from Lithuania, now competing in Ireland this weekend, and residing in the UK. This car, a turbo V8 BMW E30, the biggest smoke machine we've ever seen, and right now he's going to show you what it's all about.
What about that for a weight transfer through the first corner? Vaskelis coming to put in a big run here. Now, what can he do? Can he keep it pinned to the outer sections? So far, so good. We talk about the track drying up and smoke starting to increase. We have a smoke machine out on circuit at the moment. Vaskelis laying it down here, hugging that outer line, keeping that throttle pinned, and across the line. Guys, make some noise for Armas Vaskelis.
Armas Aramis Vasquez, one of the most entertaining drivers on the grid, and trying to be entertaining there, Eddie, but making some errors along the way. And again, if you're watching it here in the grandstand or around the track, you're starting to figure out what that perfect line is, what it looks like, and what the judges are going to be scoring. So let's see if you've predicted this one correctly. The score for Aramis Vasquez about to drop in. If you're watching this on live stream right now around the world, which I'm sure you are, hit that share button at the bottom of your screen. 75 for Aramis Vasquez, gets it all done on the second run, puts him in a 21st position in qualifying. As I mentioned, hit the share button, hit it down the bottom, let us know where you're watching from. The whole world watching this last round of the Irish Drift Championship, we want to know where you're watching from. We want you guys to hit that share button, spread out. Next up, Darren D-Mac McNamara, 8 years in the Formula Drift Professional Series, back in the Irish Drift Championship in this rocket ship of a Group DPS 13, throwing it in.
Yeah, McNamara down the order right now, so just getting very wide, manages to keep that going. Such a severe drop-off circuit there, but McNamara, with so much experience, manages to keep this one going. Needs to up this score, Dave, because otherwise he's going to be facing one of the higher order championship finishers, and McNamara in that Group DPS 13 clouding out Mondello's circuit. Big run from him, but of course that error at the third zone, I imagine, will impact his score.
Darren D-Mac McNamara back in action in the Irish Drift Championship. Got that car dialed in, but a little drop off the track there might hurt his score. Let's see where he lands in the qualification order. And an 80 on the board for Darren McNamara. Judges saying the speed and fluidity really marking him up there. 15th position for Darren D-Mac McNamara. He's in the game, looking pretty safe for battle action later on. Attention now turns to John Shine, who is on the line.
Yeah, John Shine gets the thumbs up from the marshal, and he is ready to go down the order. 53 is all he could muster up on his first run. Slams through the gears though, ahead of his second run. Look at the fast entry here from John Shine. It takes him a little bit wide. Can he get to that third zone? Just about getting the rear end into that section. Keeps it nice and high as he comes around by Link Engine Management corner. And if there was any concerns about whether or not this track is dry, look at the smoke that John Shine is creating. This car prepped by Dean M Sport, mapped by West Coast Performance. Shine across the line, and a second run in the bag, and a big one, Dave.
Yeah, very big run from John Shine. As I mentioned, understated car, understated driver, but nothing understated about that run as these Irish young guns trying to come through and make a statement against some of the biggest international names in world drifting. And John Shine doing a great job there of putting himself into the fight. Score drops in, 78.7 for John Shine. Into 20th position he goes. And it's not safe, but it's safe enough.
You know what, for me, I think 20th position is, you know what, I think that's a spot that's going to be, you know, you could be confident saying that at some point, you don't know where he's going to land, but he'll be involved. Alan McNeil gets ready to leave the line, 68.7 on the first run for the service engineer. What can he do this time around? Very fast through that first corner, perfect on that mid-line. Can he keep us going? Look at the accuracy here from Alan McNeil. So far, so good. Oh, just washes very wide. Oh, and almost into the kitty litter, Dave.
Yeah, trying to just push that a little bit harder on the first run. Very solid run on the board for the first half of qualifying, but now trying to push it that little bit harder just to get himself super safe into those battles. Might have worked against him though as he drops off the track a small bit.
Yeah, I think perfect through that first section, but just couldn't screw up that speed.
Alan McNeil now will await his score from the judges. Will it be enough to see him into top 32 or safe into that top 32? We've got some very interesting battles coming up later on, I can tell you that, the way things are stacking up right now. And remember, we take an hour break at the end of qualifying, and then we are having the Drift Masters European Championship practice run. 72, enough for 27th position for Alan McNeil. Just to finish off, we are having an hour of practice here for all of our European drivers. If you're here in attendance and you haven't watched practice before, all of our European drivers that will be taking part in tomorrow's final of the European Championship, the Drift Masters European Championship, will be on track. And then we go to our big top 32 parade and top 32 finish for the Irish Championship. And will Neil Dunn be making up that top 32?
Well, Neil Dunn, as a Dino driver, needs to get it done here because right now he's not in the top 32. A 42 on the first run sees him down the order, but perfect through that third outer zone. What can he do as he comes into Link Engine Management corner? Perfect once again from Neil Dunn in the MDT One via looking really confident out there. It's been a really big year for Neil Dunn, and his driving has come on. He says he's never been happier with the car. Crosses the line. Guys, give him a round of applause. Neil Dunn pulling it out of the bag on that second qualifying run.
Just interesting to note right now, bar Mitch Larner, who has only one run to get it done, almost all of our international drivers are in the top 32 right now. So we are going to have a real international face-off for this 15-year undefeated streak today. And Neil Dunn would love to be making up the numbers there. And a 74 puts him in a 25th position, so he will be in that top 32. And the Pro-Am driver coming through from the Pro-Am takeover at Watergrass Hill, now making it through to the big show. On the line, Oliver Evans, you can just see how pumped up he is there, shaking his head in the car. The VP Racing Fuel driver ready and waiting to go down there, and he's just watched his fellow countryman Matt Carter go second position, take the UK into the top 2. Could we find another one right up there in the mix? Oliver Evans, big weight transfer entry on initiation as he hammers.
Oh, tyre off the rim, Dave.
Yeah, tyre off the step. Yeah, tyre completely off the rim from Oliver Evans. It's actually rolling across the gravel. So you're going to need all 4 to get this track done, and he sits on the rim, and that is a D-bead for Oliver Evans. And he is stuck on the track with it. And that's what happens. They drop those tire pressures so low, you take a little bump at any point on the circuit, tire comes straight off. If you're new to drifting, just to let you guys know, these guys in this condition can be running the tire pressures as low as 12 PSI in the tires. Oh, and we've just received word that due to his first score, that will be the end of competition for Oliver Evans. Second position on the podium at the British Drift Championship last week, out of qualifying here at IDC a week later. And that's unfortunate, Eddie, as of course, tyre coming off the rim, not much you can do about it. So it looks like he's going to need some recovery, so 0 on the board. Yeah, 33rd position for Oliver Evans, meaning he will not face off in the battles later on. And it's just got another, I was about to say about international drivers, I forgot about Oliver Evans. He was sitting right on the drop zone.
But it just goes to show that's the danger of leaving it to your second run to get it done. And unfortunately for Oliver Evans, tricky conditions. The first time he comes out on circuit, Dave,
So look at this in the pits. There is movement in the pits, and it is Mitch Larner, diff in the car and ready to come back out for his second qualifying run. Mitch Larner will fight it out for the championship today. Remember, at the moment, Dwayne McKeever sits in first position in the championship, but in second position is Mitch Larner. Remember, Dwayne McKeever also sitting down the order right now. If he comes up against one of the higher qualifiers, if Dwayne was to go out in the top 32, Mitch Larner technically could still win the Irish Drift Championship.
Well, let's just go back to it. Dwayne isn't even in the top 32 at the moment, and just like what happened with Oliver Evans, there's absolutely no guarantees. Just because the track is dry doesn't mean that these guys are just going to come out and automatically qualify. A tyre off the rim, something as simple as that you have no control over, could mean the end of your weekend and potentially the championship for these guys.
Yeah, so Larner and McKeever, they're the only two that can mathematically win the Irish Drift Championship this year. Now remember, Larner still in the mix mathematically, McKeever not in the top 32, neither is Larner. That is the drama we've started with this weekend. Never mind where we're going to be by the time we get to Sunday evening. Right now, drama unfolding in front of us, Eddie. It's a nervous day for drifting, it really is.
Well, I think it's important to note that Larner obviously had confidence in the fact that they could get that car fixed and back on the track in time, because he had the opportunity of taking the spare car that he brought this weekend, having 2 runs. But this is a man that believes in his ability to get the car fixed, but also believes in the ability of producing it in 1 run and getting himself into the game. Just seeing on the replay that tyre, and that had debeated coming into that first corner. So you imagine coming over that hill.
The tyre literally just was like, see you later, Ollie. I'm just going to head over here now and watch the rest of the competition like everybody else. Not the perfect way to finish it off, and Oliver Evans will be obviously very disappointed, but it goes to show that you sort of look at the grid, you look at the stack of drivers, they say, oh, they're all going to qualify. Well, anything can happen in that 30, 40 seconds on the track. And right now, McKeever and Larner have to hope that the championship isn't decided before we even get to the end of qualifying, because both of those guys sit outside the... I think of it this way, if McKeever wasn't to qualify and Larner was, he's now in the driving seat of pushing up that ladder to try and take the championship. Never mind an international ever winning on Irish soil. Can you imagine an Australian coming here and stealing the championship on the last day of the season?
And I think the other point to note as well, Dave, is that Larner will have his second run of qualifying done just before McKeever goes out on circuit. So if Larner was to go out there and make a statement, put in a score that's capable of, one that tops qualifying or gets himself into the top 5 or 6, McKeever's going to have that additional pressure, knowing that it's not just, the chance to go up against some of the best in the world, but also his championship could end at the qualifying stage. So huge pressure on the Northern Irish driver.
So Oliver Evans recovered from the track, and that will be the last of the action he'll see this weekend. Story starting to unfold already. Remember, not only today have we got the final of the Irish Drift Championship with the highest stacked amount of international drivers trying to take down that streak. They go top 8 in the championship. Finishers in IDC go into tomorrow's action against 35 drivers. Tomorrow there will be 22 countries represented on the grid. And here's a more interesting fact. We know at round 4 in Hockenheim in Germany, James Dean captured the title. But there is another championship being played out in Drift Masters, and that is the Nations Cup. Right now, as we go into the last round, Poland are ahead of Ireland in that cup, and that will be decided tomorrow. Guys, round of applause for Ollie Evans, unfortunately not working out the way he wanted it to this weekend.
Yeah, and look, the thing to remember is, if you aren't overly familiar with some of these Polish drivers, and you're coming here tomorrow, you'll be very familiar with them by the end of the day. They are incredibly talented, and certainly not to be taken lightly.
No, so Ireland and Poland will go up against each other. Just 5 points or something between those guys in the championship, meaning it's all down to tomorrow to finish off that Nations Cup. Paul Conlon now on the line. He's had a nervous wait. Eddie's been up there having a good think about things for the last 10 minutes to see if he can get himself into the mix.
Well, he's looking pumped up, Dave, banging the fists off his helmet there just as he gets ready to take to the circuit for his second run. What can Conlon do this time around? 72 on the first run. Looking very fast through the circuit on this second half of qualifying. Filling that link engine outer zone. Conlon on a big run here, dialing on full lock as he transitions right onto the wall. Just coming out. Oh! And a spin! A spin for Paul Conlon, and he was looking hot, Dave.
I was about to say this is the best run of this track Paul Conlon has ever done, and just as I even went to attempt to say it, he spun out on that section. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. That was way up there. Everything was pretty smooth the whole way through the track. I think, he just in his own head said, this is the easy bit. This is just keep it to the floor, and just overcooked it before the line. And I can't even see in the car right now.
Look, what's really harsh about that is look where he sits in the stakes, 29th position, and a number of drivers, Dave, sitting on zeros or low scores still to come. A very nervous wait for Paul Conlon, and he will be kicking himself.
Had to wait for all the smoke to clear the car because he couldn't even see the windscreen there after that spin. So a mean machine, Paul Conlon's S15, and he will be still inside that top 32, but not a safe one.
So Brendan Stone sits on the line. He awaits his second run of qualifying, but our marshals just taking a moment to check that the wall is in a safe position.
Yeah, just
and that the track is suitable for Stone to come back out.
Not sure that we noticed it, but Paul Conlon did tag the wall there and move one of those concrete blocks. So it looks like our marshals will make some repairs to that to make sure that wall is 100% for all the drivers to come through. Again, it seems like a trivial thing, fixing the track like that, but we've got to make sure the conditions are exactly the same for every driver to make it as safe as possible. I mean, they're throwing cars sideways at walls. It's not that safe, but as safe as possible is the word I would use. And it looks like right now they are going to repair that.
Yeah, and of course, if a wall is even, these guys are trying to put their vehicles up as close to the wall as possible, and if one of those blocks is jutting out just ever so slightly, it can cause them to have an accident, and we don't want to see that.
So obviously it looked like Paul Conlon was going too deep to the wall, had to put on big angle, did hit the wall and then spin him around, so it wasn't an unforced error. He did make contact, quite heavy contact, enough to actually move the concrete block. So we will repair that part of the track and try and get the action back underway here as soon as possible for all you guys in attendance. And of course, it's a doubleheader this weekend. Stacked grid on the Saturday, stacked grid on the Sunday tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow there will be 700 show cars, Japanese show cars here on site as well. So not to be missed whatsoever. Both grandstands sold out for tomorrow. And today we are getting there pretty closely to that stage as well. So a huge weekend for Irish drifting, hoping to beat the attendance record here in Mondello Park over the 2 days. And so a little bit of repair needed. So just before we finish the season, a couple of more events, Eddie, to let you know about, and it starts next weekend as a 3-round Drift Games tour takes place around the country in conjunction with Supermax. It is going to be the Drift Games tour, some of the best drivers in Ireland playing some fun drift games in some crazy locations and on all those plazas. First off, next weekend, we are in the Barack Obama Plaza on September 30th, in the Galway Plaza on October 7th, and Tipperary Town Plaza on October 14th. And that is from showtime from 12 to 4 on the Sunday. It's free entry for everybody. Come down. We're giving away plenty of incredible prizes. We're going to have some incredible cars down there. And of course, we're leading towards the end of season finale, the Drift Games Bash on October 28th and 29th. So it looks like our pit reporter Nathan Black has caught up with his best friend, Dwayne McKeeves.
Well, say it ain't so. I'm live in Ireland, baby, and guess who I have found on my travels? It's the Northern Smoke Machine, Dwayne McKeeves. Now, Dwayne, we've been spending a lot of time together over the other side of the pond. You've been smashing it to pieces, leaving, you know, second place far, far behind. You told me once pressure was for tires. Now, I believed you, but is there something different in the air today? There's all the cats are out today. James Dean, the guy from Australia, that's miles away. We've got the guy from Vegas here. Do you know what I mean? Is there anything different today? Can you still go home top of the mountain?
Definitely. We're having a few problems here this weekend. It's really to do with track temperatures on the first corner, very slippy, and it's just really the hardest bit is trying to get around the first corner, but just trying to dial it in here a wee bit more at the minute. I'm trying to get more grip into the front of the car, but everything should be okay for the second one.
So everything's feeling fine. Are you going home at the top today, or is one of these guys about to dethrone you? You're 8 for 8. Are you about to be 9 for 9?
Well, I'm actually currently fighting for the championship with this guy here in the passenger seat at the minute.
Who's in there? Hello, Sausage. I didn't even know you had... Who's in there? How are you? You're looking relaxing. You're enemy number 1, are you? Yeah. And so basically, why do you think you can beat Dwayne?
You know, we've been matching with him all year, and it's been a good year, and you know, we've had mechanical issues all year, and we've still been at these hills. So at the end of today, we're going to see where we stand with him, and you know, we're fighting for the championship. But you know, may the best man win today, and hopefully we can just have a good battle again, and yeah, we'll see how we go.
Awful lot of words there for someone that just needed to say, Dwayne ain't got a chance and I'm winning. But I tell you what, this is the man right here. This is the Northern Smoke Machine. He's got my bet. Best of luck to you, and we'll catch up with you guys later on.
Thanks, Nathan. He's crept somehow into our broadcast team again.
No one told me he was coming.
He doesn't even work here. I don't know what he's doing down there. But Dwayne McKeeves and Mitch are sitting in the one car discussing the fact that both haven't jumped into the top 32 later on. That's playing out. Next up, Brendan Stone is on the line, and we are away with the drift taxi. Good run from Stone on the first half, and he sits in 16th position at the moment with an 80, so he's looking good out there, but it's a little drier than it was the first run.
Certainly, but Brendan Stone, red or dry, able to get it done and looking perfect so far through the first sections of the course. Can he maintain this? Once again, excellent line through the link engine management outer zone for Stone. Drops a little bit of a wheel. Can he keep in it now? Once again, back on the power, but comes off that outer zone just a little bit early. Foot to the floor, smokes out Mondello Park and crosses the line. Give it up for the former champion, Brendan Stone.
Brendan Stone starts at 83.7 on his second run, put him into 9th position, and another ex-champion looking very strong when the pressure's on this weekend.
Now sitting on the line, Stephen Bagsy Biaggioni managed an 82, a really impressive first run. What can he do this time around? The Monster Energy athlete here this weekend to try and take down that streak. He wants to bring it home. Big angle through the first corner from Bagsy as he fires that PS through the circuit. A little bit of a waver, but gets back on it. Throws on the angle, filling that outer zone. And Bagsy is on a flyer here. shredding the Westlake tyres as he takes it out to the wall. Has he got this car running as sweet as he needs it? Could he compete for the championship this weekend? Woo! Bagsy crosses the line.
Well, you said it there, Eddie. I don't know if that car is running 100%. It sounds like it's missing a little bit, but he hammered it home. Nice run for Bagsy. He's been looking for that turn of fortune all year, and you know, he said this track is, I mean, he's kind of had a bad year, but this track, he said, every time he's come here, something's gone wrong. Right now, comes at round one, looks very strong, comes back again. Look at this, an 86 for Steve Bagsy. Biaggioni puts him into 7th position. And I'm starting to feel that that streak is looking a little under pressure right now.
So, taking a cone with him, Michael Megan leaves the line as he gets ready for his second run. He needs to produce the goods this time around. Big fast entry as he dials on the angle into that first corner. Almost 90 degrees as he comes past the third outer zone, straight into Link ECU corner, but just comes off that line a little bit early. What can Megan do now? Can he keep it out to the wall? He certainly can, as he almost clips that spoiler, but just shallows up a little bit as he comes through the final sections. But a big run there and a big improvement from Michael Megan. So Michael Megan awaits his scores, representing Mobil 1 Burke's Oil this weekend. Flex Print and Design HCT, and then score on the board, an 81.3, enough for 15th position, Dave.
81.3 is only enough for 15th position right now in this qualifying session. That is insane. Dennis Murphy takes to the line. Another driver looking to improve his score from the first run, the 28-year-old tire technician from Cork, representing Mega Spec Cable Performance, Westlake Tires, Ignite Race Fuel, ECU Master, and Dennis Murphy is one of those drivers that on his day here could go top of qualifying. I'm expecting a very aggressive all-or-nothing run here.
Yeah, well, it was a good, solid first run and a good banker to put in, but Murphy coming out to go that little bit harder this time around, not getting as deep into that third zone as he'd like. The judges will penalise him for that, an all-important clip for keeping them on the correct line. But certainly Murphy keeping that shoe in and throttle pin now through the final sections. A good, solid run, but not perfection from Murphy by any stretch of the imagination. And the man from Kanturk in Cork gets it across the line.
Isn't it crazy to think now that you can have a car on track with a quick change rear end, sequential 2.2 stroke SR, and it's not even the highest horsepower car on the grid. 79.3 for Dennis Murphy on his second run puts him into 19th position. Could be pretty safe there for battle action later on. And from talking about high horsepower cars, now we move to the lowest horsepower car on the grid, just over 200 horsepower in David Hobbs's AE86. And everyone has said the game has moved on too far. There's all sequentials and winters and all this kind of stuff. If David Hobbs can get himself into the top 32 here for the Hero Corolla, we'll be very pleased to see him still back into that top 32, and a good line so far from Hobbs.
Yeah, a little bit wide through that first section though, Dave, and it's costing him just a little bit. He didn't get as deep into the third clipping zone as he'd like, but now correcting that, keeping it pinned through link engine management corner, and David Hobbs showing that the underdog can get it done, but drops a couple of wheels just as he takes it to the wall, has to back out of that one. And just goes to show such a difficult circuit to try and get around without making any mistakes in it.
I think David Hobbs, you know, has to sacrifice the inner first corner to get to the clipping zone 3, and it's hurting his score a little bit there. But a great run all the same from Hobbs, and impressive stuff for a man with not much power under his seat. And there you have 58.3, not enough for David Hobbs to get him into that top 32. So hearing more that Paul Conlon breaking a half shaft as he came across the line. That's what caused that incident earlier on. So guys, the machinery starting to suffer out there as well. Ryan Caldwell, but no such worries there. He sits in 13th position. This was just for the fans. And what an entry from the 16-year-old Ryan Caldwell.
Yeah, Caldwell putting on a performance here, setting himself up for a big run. Oh, but just gets it a little bit wide, almost bails into the kitty litter. That extra concrete on the circuit, of course, is off track for these guys. And Ryan Caldwell, the young gun, looking to make a name for himself in the pro class. A really competitive first run at 82 on the board. And Caldwell awaits the second score from his judges. A few more errors on that run than the first. So as we await the score from the judges, you can see in the background the flags of all the different nations, and an 81 drops in for Ryan Caldwell, 13th position for him, not able to improve on that first run.
No, and just to show you, regardless of the 81, but an 81 and 82 shows a consistent drive from him, so he's going to be dangerous later on. Dean Martin up next.
And look where he sits, Dave, on the drop zone, 32nd position, 68 on the first run. What has Martin got in the tank? Can he pull something out of the locker here in that PTG E36 East Coast Alloys M3, representing DD Autos and TH Components? He gets set to leave the line.
I mean, we're just starting. This is the boring part of the show. It is the qualifying session. This is the formality, and it's already so exciting. Dean Martin heading into that first corner. He knows what he's got to achieve here. He cannot afford to make any errors.
Yeah, slides a little bit wide and misses that second zone, though. Dave gets out to the third outer zone. Will his line be affected as he comes into link engine corner? He certainly is, and just can't fill that outer zone. I'm not sure if this one's going to be able to compete with his first run. Just not consistent enough into those outer zones, but pulls a good finish into the run. And Dean Martin could be a nervous wait for him.
I mean, the judges now can watch those almost 80, 90 runs and know what they're aiming for. Dean Martin, not a lot of seat time in this car this year. It's good to finish the season with the car working correctly. But again, as you mentioned, Eddie, maybe missing some of the zones that will get the higher scores. And look at that, stays in the 32nd position. And that is a very nervous wait when you know Mitch Larner and Dwayne McKeever both are outside the top 32. So let's see how that one plays out. Chris Brady now on the line.
Yeah, Chris Brady sits on the line, and his score of 61.3 is not enough to see him inside that top 32. So the relentless drift, Bradley Motorworks Chambers performance driver, needs to pull it out of the bag here. He says he's the underdog hero, but he wants to remind people of just how good a driver he is. So now is his opportunity to do that. Fires it in on big angle, nice midline through that first corner. Can he maintain this? Certainly can. Perfect through the third zone, gets high onto the bank, and fills that outer zone. Chris Brady's coming for it here. Switches back nicely onto the wall, and again looks to keep that outer zone filled with a rear wheel. Sends up the smoke screen, and Mondello, show your appreciation as Brady takes it across the line.
Chris Brady putting in a run. You know, these guys have been looking at this grid for a couple of weeks now saying, if I want to be good this, it's any time to be good, this is the time to be good. You cannot just softly get into the top 32 here. The most important thing is you put your best run in. Brady did just that. I think that's going to be a score that gets him into battle action. And look at that, at 82.7 for Chris Brady, puts him into 13th position. Those Irish boys are fighting back now, Eddie.
Yes, and one of them that really needs to put on a fight is Alan O'Loughlin. As we said, minimal seat time in this car yesterday. A lot of rear end damage. The team got it done. 56 on the first run. What can O'Loughlin do here? Will he go full lock into that first corner? Nice midline. Takes the rear wheels into that third clipping zone. Gets straight into that outer zone and starts to fill it as he comes around link engine management corner. O'Loughlin looking good here for a big run. Perfect through the final. Oh, but just comes offline a little bit, Dave. That could hamper his score as he crosses the line.
Isn't it incredible how perfect they need to be, guys? Put your hands together for Alan O'Loughlin. I was just mentioning that you've got to be perfect here. It's not about being able to drift is hard enough. Being able to drift at 70 miles an hour is very hard. Being able to drift a car that's so much grip and power that's trying to kill you at every moment. And then you got to be perfect on top of all that. What a day for Irish drifting this is turning out to be. Will Alan O'Loughlin do enough to get himself into the top 32?
Yeah, being good isn't good enough. You've got to be exceptional. At 66 on the board for O'Loughlin, 34th position.
Oh, not enough on a day like today. That small error costing him.
Now Charlie Geary sits on the line representing Clonakilty Car Centre, Evolution Studios, Yellow Speed, Premier Auto Parts, Auto Equip, Garage Equipment, GL West Cork, Motors, Toomey Precision Engineering, and a man that needs to pull it out of the bag, sitting on a 0 from the first run. What has Geary got in the locker as he slams through the gears? Big weight transfer entry through the first corner, but very shallow getting up on that curb. Struggles to make it out to the third clipping zone. Geary needs to pull something really impressive, needs to fill these zones if he's going to have hopes of making it into the top 32. The last time we'll see Geary in this car, as he prepares a new chassis for 2018, or 2019 rather, he crossed the line. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Charlie Geary. That is going to be a close one, Dave. I'm not sure if that's enough.
Charlie Geary doing a good job. I mean, these guys would easily be in the battle action in any other round, but right now with so many internationals stacked on top, that bar gets risen, and look at that, a 61.7, a 38th position for Charlie Geary. Another driver bowing out at qualifying stage. So harsh out there today.
So harsh indeed. Now another man sitting on the line with a 0 from the first run. The pressure builds as these drivers look to be part of the biggest show in European drifting this year. What can Devlin do as he takes it through the first corner? Nice line from Liam Devlin right out to that outer zone. Perfect through the first few sections. Oh, but washes wide. Just keeps it out of the kitty litter, Dave. That extra little bit of concrete saving the Antrim man. Devlin throws it onto the wall, looking to finish this run in style, but his score will be hurt heavily after that big error in link engine management corner. And Devlin takes it across the line.
And a shame, just with such a good, strong finish, that the start may hamper his score here.
So Devlin awaits the score. That 0 on the first run, improved on, but is it enough? Scoring so high already in this. And look at this, Dave, another driver just not managing to produce the goods, a 68.7, only enough for 34th position. And unfortunately, that's the end of the run for Liam Devlin.
Onto the line we go. Kieran Casey representing Bumbulance, that incredible charity for sick kids. If you are in attendance or online, check out bumbulance.com. Give generously, an amazing cause, and of course nothing matters more than helping those less fortunate. And Kieran did a great job of supporting that charity all year, but he's out here with business on his mind as he tries to get himself into that top 32. A little bit of understeer to the first corner is not going to help his cause.
No, a misfire in this car earlier on in practice, Dave, and I'm not sure that they've been able to totally eradicate that. And I think just some gremlins creeping into the car for Kieran Casey this weekend, causing problems. 52 on the first run, a few errors on that one. I don't imagine that that one's going to be enough to get him into the game. And
so Kieran Casey will await his score from the judges. He's had a very strong year this year, but I don't think it's going to be the strongest finish. A couple of errors in that run might see him outside. Yeah, 42nd position. Kieran Casey eliminated. And all this is stacking up for me, Eddie, is saying the guys that are being replaced here are international drivers in that top 32 that are replacing a lot of these guys that have been in the mix all year in the Irish Drift Championship. So next up, Danny O'Callaghan. Well, he hasn't missed out on a top 16 all year, but now he's got to go through a qualifying session and top 32 to get there again. There's a lot of pressure on the pro rookie right now.
Yeah, pressure on the line, but he's got to produce it now or never, because it's end of season time for O'Callaghan, and if he can't produce the goods here, but so far so good, can he keep on that high line? Filling that outer zone, you just see full throttle through that section, shredding the tires and smoking out the Mondello circuit, switches back, throws it nicely onto the wall. Pinpoint accuracy from Danny O'Callaghan, and this is what we were talking about. Danny O'Callaghan gets it across the line. Mondello, show your appreciation. That man is in the game.
Danny O'Callaghan using every bit of that 500 horsepower RB25 under the bonnet to get himself into the mix. Again, another driver we'll be talking about, I think, for years to come. Will today be his day to go up against some of the biggest names in world drifting and take down some superstars? Well, one in development is Danny O'Callaghan for sure.
So the score drops in. Look at this, Dave, an 80.3, and look where it leaves him. Not even mid-pack. 18th position for an 80.3. That's how hard these guys are pushing, but Danny O'Callaghan gets it done.
Next on the line, Jack Shannon. Well, he will not be happy that all these guys are up towards the 90s, and he is down in 6th position. 86.3 on his first run, meaning he is definitely in battle action today. Both Shanahan brothers will definitely be safe for battle action. But Jack Shanahan, right now in that car, is going, do you know what? I think people have forgotten about me this year. I'm going to go out here and put the top run in. James Dean Who is going to be running through his head right now.
If I know Jack Shanahan, and I'm familiar with him,
he's met him once or twice.
Once or twice. I think this is going to be backwards. It's going to be fast, and I think there's going to be Tri-Ace tire smoke pretty much everywhere in this Mondello circuit.
Well, he has nothing to lose right now, so he's going to go out there and try and put in over a 95. He's going to try and top qualifying, give himself the best chance of finishing the season strong in the Irish Drift Championship. It's all or nothing now for Jack Shannon. He's got a massive weight transfer entry. Shannon fires it into that first corner on huge angle and puts foot to floor as he comes through the course at thunderous speed right now. Just a little bit shy of that outer zone there, getting into it pretty late.
Yeah, I think scrubbing just too much speed through that first corner, dialing on that little bit too much angle. Batters the boot off the wall as he comes by. Not the perfect run, and as I say, look, he was safe and he was trying something a little bit special for the fans here, and certainly a very entertaining showing from Jack Shannon.
Jack Shannon waits his score from the judges. I think that, you know what, on an entertainment level, that was 208, but on a technical level, it might not be enough to trouble his first score, I would imagine, a little bit more solid. But then again, you got the first score in the bag, you can go out there and do a little bit more.
So, if you're watching on the screen, you can see in the background Pete Nielsen warming his tyres, which means we are skipping Conor Shanahan. No reason been fed to us just yet as to why.
Yeah, Conor Shanahan safe into the top 32, though. 73 on the second one. Jack Shannon stays in 6th position, right up in the business end of things. And Conor Shanahan, some issue with the car, saying they've got enough of a good run from the first half of qualifying. Oh, and it looks like Conor Shannon might just have nearly missed his spot, and just with 2 seconds to spare, gets to the line for his second run. Marshall was just about to call the clock on Conor Shannon, and he just overtook Pete Nielsen while he was mid-donut in the burnout box. Actually dodged him through and got up to the start line, and the 15-year-old looks like he will make it to the start.
Looked like a legal overtake to me, Dave, so I think we're all good. And Marshall just making sure that he is ready. He has his safety equipment on, all harnesses in place, and racing gloves on those hands.
I mean, we often mention the age thing, and I know it sometimes, but if you're a new fan to the sport, if you're here this weekend, you haven't watched it before. This kid, at 14 years of age at the start of this year, in the first round of the Champions League of Drifting, Drift Masters European Championship, beat the world champion James Dean at 14, and then just as the battle finished, he turned 15 on the podium. So looking for a strong finish to the season also is Conor Shanahan in the Link Engine Management Westlake Tire 180 as he throws it in hot into that first corner.
Yeah, Shanahan back to stamp his authority all over this championship once again, and just comes shy of that outer zone. Very uncharacteristic there from Conor. Usually so precise with the rear end of that 180SX. Gets it nice and deep into the wall though, and keeps it there, filling that outer zone. A very strong second run from Shanahan. Not perfect. I don't imagine it's going to contend for top spot, but showing good consistency once again.
Just receiving word that Conor Shannon had trouble starting the car before the run. That was the issue. He was couldn't get the car started. They were jumping it in the pits at an 80.7 on the second, but he stays in 5th position with an 87.3 from his first run. No, do not adjust your screens. You actually can see through the door of Pete Nielsen's car. And yes, he is wearing a lumberjack race suit. This is all reality right now for Pete Nielsen, unveiling a new car this weekend. You're going to see even the Starlight Marshal cracking a smile and a laugh there at Pete Nielsen as he takes off for his second run of the track. He currently sits in 25th position. He'd like to claw up a little bit higher in the order there just to be safe for battle action for the debut of this Drift Games 180SX.
Well, that's the thing. It is the debut of this 180SX, and he's got to show that it's more capable than his previous car. What has Pete got? Ooh, lots of understeer through that first corner as he almost straightens, but gets it back on the power and back on angle. Nice and wide out to that third zone, but just goes wide again. and struggling to keep this car on the line, pushing really hard as Pete Nielsen takes it out to the wall. Now, can he fill this outer zone through the final sections? Just comes off a little bit early. Pete pushing really hard, Dave, and not able to maintain the perfect line.
Pete Nielsen across the line, one of the most imaginative guys in the Irish Drift Championship, and of course an incredible display of what you can do with a drift car if you run out of ideas. So 65 not enough to change his position. 25th position is where he'll stay in the qualifying order. May or may not be enough. We'll see how things go. Shane O'Sullivan in the Jap Speed S15 running Max's tires next to lead the line, and he loves it here at Mondello. And he said, I've gone over this hill about 4,000 times, and every time I do it, it still gives him that buzz. And a nice weight transfer entry for Shane O'Sullivan as he starts putting foot to floor and hammering the throttle.
This looking really, really good once again from Sully, Dave. Perfect line through those first few clipping zones. Maintains the high line as he comes by that link engine management outer zone, filling it entirely. Now, what can he do through the final section? The Jap Speed driver, full throttle through that zone. Shreds the Max's tires, smokes out the Mondello arena. Guys, make some noise for the Jap Speed driver, Shane O'Sullivan. So Shane O'Sullivan, representing Elite Auto's Jap Speed driving style and Max's tires, awaits the scores from the judges on his second run. Will he do better than 81.3? Damn right he will. And 89.7 drops Sully into third position.
Wow, Shane O'Sullivan goes third with an 89. That is a massive score for the Galway man. And we move it along to another man looking for a massive score. It's Brian Egan in the Delta with R32. He looked very strong. He's sitting in the top 10 right now in qualifying. He knows he's safe. This is when you're going to start to see these guys take big risks because they know they're safe. But to get even higher is they're avoiding some of the higher qualifiers longer in the competition.
Yeah, this one's for the fans. Brian Egan gets ready for a big weight transfer entry. Look at this. Fires through that first corner. Perfect on that third clipping zone. What can he do when he comes into link engine management? Just watches a little bit wide, pushing so hard to try and wow the crowds here in attendance. Sends up the smoke signal and takes it right to the wall. Such an aggressive style of driving from Brian Egan. And he takes it across the line. Grandstand. Hit him with a wall of sound. Gotta say, what a job O'Neill Auto Body have done on that R32 Skyline, and such an aggressive looking car.
Yeah, more flakes than a Bola Special K, Ed, I think is what they've been quoted as saying.
More flakes than a 99.
So Brian Egan scores a 74 on that, and an 84 from his first run will leave him in 10th position right now. With a grid this stacked, that ain't bad. Top 10, will he stay there? A lot of big runs left to go. Chris Burnett now on the line, civil engineer from Armagh. And he is one of, if you're on the internet, which I'm sure at least 5 or 6 people here are, he is one of the guys that probably does the most amount of winding up of anybody on that grid of everybody else. So he's had a lot of fun this year winding everybody up. But right now, the smiles turn into, I would imagine, concentration.
Look at this, Dave. Big straight and understeer through that first corner. Did he get up on that curb and just cause just a little bit of an unsettlement for Chris Burnett here?
Another big error there on the outer zone, Eddie. It's not going to help his chances here.
And if I remember, his first run certainly wasn't perfect, as I think he may have been down the order. Now Chris Burnett, not the ideal run for him, and we wait to see where #CB58 will land.
Yeah, and look at this, he just stays inside that top 32 with a 29th position, but a couple of big runs left to go and some of the higher championship ordered drivers, so that's going to be a nervous wait. Joe Doyle on the line though, he had a cracker of a first run, but just messed up a couple of little areas, got a 71, so he's got room to improve here in the Quinn M Sport R33.
Yeah, the man behind all those incredible builds at Quinn M Sport, Joe Doyle, fires through the first corner, looking to build on that first score. Takes it very wide though, as he just drops the wheel at the third clipping zone. Now looks to fill that outer zone and does a really nice job of doing so in this incredible R33 Skyline. What can he do as he takes it to the wall once again through the final sections? Joe Doyle would love to finish the season with a podium here at round 5. Nice job doing a very competent second run of the circuit.
Absolutely, and if you guys are in attendance and you want to have a better view of the action, you can head up to the far grandstand. Still some remaining tickets left for the rest of the day if you want to upgrade from the fences. And Joe Doyle doing a great job there as he finishes his second run. I think, you know, it's an 80.3, 18th position for Joe Doyle. I was just about to say, I think that's a safe in the mid-pack sort of score. He'll be happy with that one. I mean, you can only win the battles. You can't really win qualifying or practice. So Kevin Quinn, as he signals to us on the camera, Eddie, from the start line, no pressure in his head right now. He's out here for fun. Good first run in the bag.
Yeah, look, Kevin Quinn sitting on that 82, feeling confident, looking comfortable out there, and having a little bit of fun with the start line, Marshall. It's all about the fun for Kevin Quinn, but once that visor goes down, it's all business. Here we go. What can he do in the second run? Is he big weight transfer entry? Fires on the angle, just costs him on his line, but Quinn looking to just put on a show for the crowd in attendance here. Filling that outer zone and puts the foot to the floor now. Starts to smoke up those tires as he throws it down onto the wall. Nice line here. Navigating the circuit perfectly. Kevin Quinn, 360 over the line. Guys, make some noise for the owner at Quinn M Sport.
Kevin Quinn having some fun out there. Nice to see him relaxed in the car, feeling comfortable on the circuit. His practice was exceptional yesterday. I think he's dialed in and ready for battle action later on. Remember, this is just the boring part of the show where they run on their own. Later on, we go head to head. Not improving on his first score. Kevin Quinn stays in 16th position. And you know, we get these guys head to head later on, door to door. When you lose one battle, that's the end of the season for a lot of these guys, not just the round. So you're not going to go out there, you know, throwing limp wrists at people. You're going out there punching doors today. So Paul McCarthy, one of those drivers who I think on his day can win this outright. There's only 5 or 6 drivers on that grid that have ever won a round of the Irish Drift Championship, and he is one of them. He's won multiple rounds, 3 rounds over the last couple of years. So every time you count him out, the giant killer comes back out there, and what a day to be slaying giants, right, Ed?
Yeah, certainly is. Look, you've got to talk about Paul McCarthy as being one of these drivers that will not be intimidated by anybody. You put anybody in front of him and it's not going to faze him. He believes that he is one of the best to do it. He has maintained this basic and modest enough build, Dave. Other drivers, you know, plumbing in horsepower. He just sticks to what he knows. Trusty, well set up BMW. Here we go, McCarthy through the first sections nicely. Looking to build on that 87, but I don't think he's going to do so. Washes a little bit wide, missing that outer zone, not able to fill it perfectly. And maybe not the second run that Paul McCarthy was looking for, but he has that safe banker. 87 on the board from the first run, sits well up the order, and I would imagine that that is where he'll stay. He won't improve any further.
No, Paul McCarthy puts in a solid run there. As you mentioned, Eddie, not enough, I would imagine. Yeah, at 81 though, still a respectable score on the second. 87 though leaves him in 5th position. So imagine, a man that says he has never spent more any other year in the last 7 years of competition still sits in that kind of an amazing situation in qualifying. Going to show driving ability, and driving ability is what's put Mark McBurney into the business end in the top 5 of this championship. Yeah, McBurney, look at this, he's going for a big entry here.
Yeah, going for that backwards entry, as he loves to do on this Mondello circuit. Nice fast line as he looks to dial on the angle once again, using every last millimeter of that
How
lap
did
kick.
he do that? He didn't even slow down from Oval 1, he just threw on the angle. This is the fastest attempt to the track for Mark McBurney. I don't think I've seen anybody today try that into Mobil 1. He went into Mobil 1, not on the handbrake, full throttle on the front brakes, and made it work. What a run from the Drift Shed NI driver. Genuinely thought he was going to end up about 50 feet into the gravel trap there, and he just slammed the front brakes and kept it foot to the floor. Incredible. Let's see what the judges think. Scores drop in at 84 for Mark McBurney, puts him into 10th position in that 400 horsepower SR20. With all of that stacked machinery, he's still there in the business end at 10th. Mikey Fitz now lines up in the 2JZ Toyota powered RX-7, representing Drift Games Group D. And look at this, the splitter flapping as he comes down the straight into that first corner. So much speed carried.
Yeah, a lot of pace carried through that first corner from Mike Fitzgerald, and he's looking to try and break into the 80s. 79 on the first run for the Drift Games driver, representing Group D. This one looking really good as he takes it right out to the wall. Cost him his line though, as to straighten just ever so slightly, but gets back into it. And you know, we talk about there not being a straight panel on this car. That rear end has taken one hell of a beating this season.
Yeah, well, Mike never leaves all of the panels on the car in qualifying anyway, and it looks like that's going to be the same case here as the bumper now dragged off the circuit as usual. And Mike, you know, he's got very patient friends that decide they want to keep fixing this car every round when he keeps destroying it. But at 24th position is where he'll finish up, probably up against some of the higher qualifiers, Eddie, which will be interesting. Alan Hines right now, though, sits 3rd position in the championship. Good first run, needs a brilliant second one.
Yeah, needs to make a statement to the chasing pack, does Alan Hines, and a fist pump for the window and the camera. The Pro Drift Academy represented on this S14. Group D helping keep him out on circuit this year as well. What can Alan Hines do as he takes to the circuit for the second run of qualifying? Can he maintain his 3rd spot? Hard on the front brakes though through that first corner, as Alan Hines now looks to keep it nice and pinned through the outer section. Foot on the throttle. Nice line so far, takes it out to the wall, just skimming that wall with the rear end and almost taking that spoiler off that S14. Perfect through the final sections. Alan Hines looking really strong.
Yeah, looking strong until he went off on the grass, but luckily he was past the finish line and didn't hamper his score. Can Alan Hines now improve up the leaderboard and get himself a safe position and avoid those top contenders for at least the top 32? An 85.7 means Alan Hines goes into 9th position and does avoid a lot of the top competitors. And I say top, they're all top here today, 32, but this is where it all comes down to it. Mitch Larner sitting 2nd in the championship. He is outside the top 32. Dwayne McKeever is outside the top 32. The two in the top positions in the championship have got to get it done on the 2nd run. And the Thunder from down under in Australia, Mitch Larner, has to make it work here. He cannot afford any error. One mistake, the championship is over. And he is spinning wheels all the way up the start line. Larner comes in hot into that first corner. Yeah, huge rolling burnout through the first section, but just comes off that 3rd clipping zone a little bit early, filling the outer zone. Look at the smoke that he's creating from the Zestino tires. The WA Performance PS13. Big run here from Mitch Larner as he is cool as you like. Hand out the window as he crosses the line. Mondello, make some noise. If you're going to get it done in the very last moment. Having a diff issue, changing and rebuilding a diff in 40 minutes, missing his first run, out for 1 lap of the circuit. Is Larner in the game? Will he fight it out with McKeever to the end this year? Still wait for the score from the judges deliberating this one. Remember, now if Larner's in and McKeever is out, it's an 80.7. Larner's in the game, 19th position. He's mid-pack, but he'll get a fighting chance to stay in the championship order. And the attention now turns to this man. Hasn't made a mistake all year. Won 4 rounds back-to-back of the Irish Drift Championship, 4 rounds of the UK Championship. He sits outside the top 32. It could be the end for McKeever, or it could be the beginning of the weekend. Let's see what happens.
He has come over this hill so many times in the past, though, a veteran of Irish motorsport at such a young age. What can McKeever do in that Tri-Ace Tires 180SX? Straight on it, just what you expect from the former 2-time champion. Can he take it to the wall? Of course he can. Loses the rear lights. McKeever shreds the tires and crosses the line. Mondello raised the roof for the Northern Smoke Machine. What about that for an end to qualifying, Dave?
Dwayne McKeever only had 1 run to keep his entire championship alive. Remember, if this man wins today, he becomes the first man in 15 years to record a perfect season. But is he in the top 32? Will he go top? Where is Dwayne McKeever in the mix? 2nd position for Dwayne McKeever. He is in the game. We are back in just 1 hour's time. We're back in 1 hour's time for our top 32. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get emotional. Right now, the Drift Masters European Championship drivers are heading to the track to get their practice in ahead of tomorrow. We've got a top 32 parade in just 1 hour's time. Hetty, I'm exhausted from qualifying. I'm nervous. It's about to go down.
At the start of this show, Dave, we said that there was tension out there. We proved it. Nothing is clear-cut here. And look, that was just qualifying. We have 32 guys ready to go to war. They will sacrifice their cars and everything will be put on the line.
We're going to put the top 32 bracket on our social media. Head to the IDC, our Irish Drift Championship Facebook. We're going to put the top 32 bracket up there for you guys shortly. You'll see what way it's stacking up for later on. We're back with the biggest parade in Irish Drift Championship history, the top 32 parade. As we send 32 guys to war, one can win it. 15 years of undefeated history on the line. Can McKeever stay undefeated, the first man to ever do that? Can the championship go to McKeever, or will Larner take it down at the last moment? It's all about to happen in 1 hour's time. We're back with you guys soon. I just can't wait.
I think we need a well-deserved rest, Dave, because it's going to be intense.
Back soon.
We are Funk Motorsport, your heat management specialists. Based in the UK, we strive for perfection, developing thermal products trusted by professional race teams and drivers worldwide. Performance, protection, reliability.
Want to save money on car parts and accessories? Then visit mixgarage.com, Ireland's #1 retailer for all things motoring. Simply enter your reg, and away you go. Repair parts, car care and tools, travel accessories and service parts. All the great brands at great prices. MixGarage.com. Shop online now.
With over 25 years' experience, Link Engine Management are global leaders in motorsport engine technology. Developed and manufactured in New Zealand, Link has been supplying ECUs, sensors and dashes to drivers around the world. We have a range of products to help you get the most out of your engine, and all of our ECUs come with a limited lifetime warranty. So if you want to upgrade, find your nearest dealer and get more info on our products, visit linkecu.com.
Mobil 1 is one oil, and unlike any other, it combines multiple lubricant properties into one oil. It transforms at the molecular level. In low temperatures, it pumps up quickly to lubricate. In high temperatures, it provides outstanding protection. In harsh conditions, it adapts continuously, keeping your engine running like new. Mobil 1 lets you drive further than ever before. That's your engine evolved. Mobil 1. Energy lives here.
There's a reason that half the paddock, if not more here, runs Samco hose, and that's that nobody wants to be let down by a split water hose or a split boost hose. And with Samco, there's nothing to worry about.
With using these hoses, we get the reliability, they never burst, we can just rely on them, and that's all we need.
Half of the grid are running Samco hoses in their cars, and there's a reason for that. They're the best in the business.
I'm so happy to be running Samco hoses now, because in the past we have run other manufacturers' hoses and we have had the intercooler pipes collapsing, which obviously when you're under massive pressure on track, you have to be fully supportive and reliant on your hoses.
So a lot of people ask us over the years, you know, what hoses you run. Personally, I can't think of anything better than Samco. They do what they say on the tin, they work, they don't come loose, they don't fail on you, they don't pop. You can't beat Samco.
I've chosen to use VP Racing fuel since I was a teenager racing motocross, which was 21 years ago now.
I've been using VP Racing fuel for years, basically ever since I built my first race car, and you want to get that consistent fuel, it was VP through and through.
Absolutely, right from the beginning. That's the brand. Yeah, I've been using VP probably since I was 10 years old racing dirt bikes. There's so many different VP Racing fuels to choose from. One of the best go-tos is definitely C16.
So we use C16 in our Formula Drift cars.
I run C16 in all my cars outside of this one here. The two race cars here at the track, we run the C85.
And my supercharged Coyote-powered Mustang that's over in Europe, we use MS109.
And a Ferrari car, I actually run MS109.
VP has been making racing fuel for 43 years. They're the official fuel of multiple top series globally. No matter where we are in the world, no matter what fuel we need, it's always consistent. It's always perfect and exactly what we're expecting and our tuners expecting. They support myself, my Drift Alliance bros, and for that, I'm extremely thankful. Keep making amazing fuels, and we'll keep out there having fun.
Presenting the Link MXS Strada dashes powered by AIM Technologies. 2 devices that work in harmony with your existing Link ECU. Available in the standard or street version, the Strada can show a wide range of data like speed, water temperature, oil pressure and much more, thanks to its ability to read up to 4 analog inputs and 1 digital input. Our dashes come pre-configured, allowing you to get set up quickly and easily. For more information on these and all of our other products, contact your local dealer or visit linkecu.com.